Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The mayor has called the meeting to order. Mayor Davey?
I am present.
Councilmember Kaplan?
Here.
Councilmember Laredo?
Here.
Vice Mayor London? Councilmember McCormick?
Here.
Councilmember Moss?
Here.
Councilmember Segurola?
Here.
Mr. Mayor, we do have a quorum. The first item on the agenda is an invocation by Rabbi of Remo Caroline Chabad of Key Biscayne.
Thank you, Rabbi. How are you?
Good, thank God. Good evening. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you again for the opportunity to join you here this evening to share a blessing together. Our gathering here today takes place shortly before the holiday of Passover, Pesach in Hebrew, which is celebrated later this month, end of March. And the main focus of the holiday of Passover is the celebration of freedom. We celebrate the liberation and exodus of the Jewish people from slavery in Egypt, an event which is also considered the birth of the Jewish people. I'd like to take a moment to direct our thoughts and prayers towards the meaning and value of freedom. Freedom is a foundational principle of our country. It's a core value in our lives. It's something we can all celebrate and be grateful for. And it's also something which we're constantly working on. We're improving it, we're expanding it, because being truly free doesn't just mean that we aren't in slavery, that we aren't controlled by some tyrannical government or dictator. I mean, those are certainly the opposite of freedom, but there can also be more subtle limitations on our freedom. Interestingly, in Hebrew, the word for ancient Egypt, where the Jewish people were enslaved, is Mitzrayim. And the meaning of the word Mitzrayim, aside from being the name of the country of Egypt, it means limitations and boundaries. That's what the word means. And being in Mitzrayim can mean being confined and limited, restricted from being true to ourselves, from fully expressing who we are. And this can take place even if we aren't in the literal Egypt or in any form of literal slavery or oppression. We can be limited by ourselves without any outside force imposing their control over us. We can all have our own forms of Egypt, of Mitzrayim, which we can from which we can challenge ourselves to be freed. So while we typically view freedom as being free from external forces, we can also understand freedom and the celebration of freedom during Passover as being true to ourselves and living fully free lives. And freedom is something that grows with us, meaning that as our abilities expand and as our accomplishments grow, together with that comes the ability to live more freely and leave another layer of internal limitation. For example, a plant, if it has what it needs, if it's fully provided for, if it has air, water, and earth, then it's fully free. It has no reason to be concerned. Even though it can't move, it's doomed to remain rooted in place for all of its lifespan, but it has the full freedom that a plant can experience. As long as it's no longer more than a plant, it's free. An animal is a different story. For an animal, even if it has its needs of food and drink provided for, it would be horribly restricted and imprisoned in the harshest manner if it were to be immobilized and forced to remain forever in one place. It would be denied a primary feature of its existence. A human being has a much higher bar for being truly free. We're intelligent people, and we would be we'd feel imprisoned even if we're fully mobile, if we can't utilize our intelligence, we can't live mindfully, and even more so if we can't live meaningfully. Even if we apply our intellectual abilities exclusively to satisfying our physical pleasures, to finding and pursuing the best food and drink and enjoying vacations, that doesn't do justice to our humanity. It doesn't allow us to be fully expressed. Ultimately, we have a much higher and deeper need, a need for meaning, to live a meaningful life that's part of something greater than ourselves. And only then can we be truly free. And on this note, I ask you to please join me in prayer to the Almighty, that our community be blessed with health, prosperity, joy, and true freedom. May we each be blessed with wisdom and understanding to dedicate our time, energy, and resources to bringing about growth and positive change to ourselves, our families, our communities, and ultimately to the whole world. And may our community be blessed that the group of individuals gathered here this evening who were entrusted with the well-being, the future of our community. May you each continue to lead, and may you inspire positive change and bring blessings and true freedom to our community. And let us say amen.
Amen. Thank you, Rabbi.
Pleasure always.
Mayor,
Yes,
I wonder if the rabbi can do me a favor and give me the spiritual grace you have to protect me tonight from my good friend Ed London.
Well, it depends. Are you in the same room?
I think he's not a miracle worker. Okay, he does the best he can. Let's not over inundate him with.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi. Madam Clerk.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item, Mr. Mayor, is brief comments by council.
Right. I'll try to be very, very brief. First, I want to thank, and I don't know if people in our community really know how much our Parks and Rec people are helping out with the Community Foundation in terms of getting our residents over to get their shots, their vaccines. So I just want to take the time to thank Todd and Richard and everybody who's really working with the foundation to make this happen. I know a lot of our seniors have been able to get their shots, a lot of our residents, and it's tremendous what they're doing. So I just want to say thank you to all of them. I want to thank Roland and Jake and the manager and everybody who's been involved in getting the beach renourishment project going. And I want to just tell the residents, I know that it's going to be a little challenging over the next few weeks. I've gotten phone calls beginning yesterday, and I understand that it's a tough time, but we have to get it done now. We've got the turtle season that starts May 1st. So, we're doing it to the best we can with the least amount of intrusion, but it's got to be done. If anybody was on the beach on Sunday with that wind blowing out of the northeast, we lost a lot. I mean, the waves were right up to the back of the beach in certain sections. So I think this is going to help us quite a bit with that the beach renourishment. Also want to remind everybody, dogs are not allowed on the beach except service dogs. No dogs other than service dogs, and service dogs must be on a leash if they're on the beach. So those are my items. Also, happy birthday to my wife. Tomorrow is her birthday, and happy St. Patrick's Day because I won't see you all before then.
I also have a happy birthday to my son, Tony, on Thursday. He's going to be 17. It's a big one at our house.
Very nice. Happy birthday, Tommy. Anybody else? All right, let's move along.
The next item, Mr. Mayor, is public comments.
All right, Pete, want to give us the standard spiel?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, watching us on Channel 77 on Comcast, Channel 99 on AT&T, or streaming us live via our website. If you wish to speak, please dial the number that is on the screen. Number is 305-365-7569. Then please enter the meeting ID number, which is 231-627-8415. For those of you that are currently in the meeting and wish to speak, please dial *9 on your telephones, or if you're using the Zoom app, please raise your hand.
We got one hand raised.
The phone number ending in 068. Please dial *6 to unmute yourself now. Caller, you are live.
Hello? Hi. Am I live?
Yes, you're live.
Okay, this is Don Ellisberg. I live at 177 Ocean Lane Drive. And what else do I have to say?
That's it. Just tell us what you want to say.
What I want to say, and I'm not sure this is the right place, I have a comment on the beach restoration.
This is the place.
The beach restoration. And my concern is I live in the Commodore Club. And in the presentation that you have tonight from the manager, Chuck Press, there's a long explanation of how you need another, I don't know, $400,000. And I have no problem with the $400,000. My problem is that since 2012, the beach at Commodore Club, which is a wide beach, is not going to, does not get any sand. And on this new 31,000 cubic yards of sand, we still won't get any sand. This time they're telling us that we don't get any sand because we have the wider beach, or the widest beach. In 2017 and the years before that, each time we didn't get sand, we were told that that was because we would smother the seagrass. I see in Chuck's presentation that there's a lot of fancy words to the same extent about smothering the seagrass, but no explanation of where that seagrass is and what's going to happen and why our beach and Commodore Club won't be getting any more sand. And I think in all openness and fairness, the residents of Commodore Club, who number, 500 apartments and probably several thousand residents, as well as all the people on Ocean Lane Drive, need to understand why they're not going to get sand this time around, regardless of the fact that it's being paid for by our taxes as well. And I'm not necessarily saying it's the wrong thing or the bad thing if we have to suffer that way, but I think we need to be open about it, and people need to understand what's going on.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
That's my comment.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor, there is no one else signed up to speak.
Okay. We will have another public comment section later on this evening. Let's move along, Madam Clerk.
The next item, Mr. Mayor, is the agenda: approval, deferrals, additions, deletions, substitutions, withdrawals.
Okay, I have one addition. Luis de la Cruz is not on here, and I'd like him to be in special presentations to talk to us about the strategic vision board.
I submitted through the clerk, Mr. Mayor, a request for the personal privilege because of all the reading, and like we got this on item 10B, the zoning change. I hope that the clerk forwarded to you.
She did.
Respectfully defer to the next meeting so I can have more time. I literally haven't had time to read it and analyze that property well because of all the contracts and stuff.
Okay.
If you need a second, I'll second.
Well, let's wait. Did anybody else have additions or deletions? Councilmember Moss?
Yeah, the discussion item to 12B5 on the manager search process. Just a discussion on it.
Okay.
Mayor, I wanted to announce an executive session just in the future. If I can do that after you set the agenda to get it out of the way, that would be great.
Certainly. So we'll make that right after. We'll make that 6.5, I guess, will be a village attorney announcement. Okay, anybody else? Additions, deletions? All right. All those in favor?
To be clear, for the record, the zoning item, as Councilmember Laredo said, is being deferred to a date certain of April 6th. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Okay, 2020.
Okay, hold on. It's April 6th. So
2021, I apologize.
Yes. So before we go vote on this, Vice Mayor?
We'll learn delaying or deferring that question.
I can't hear.
Councilmember Running, you're muted.
Where is he? There he is. Go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
My question was, will the deferral of the plat change affect the people, will negatively affect the people by us delaying it, or there's no rush? Does anybody know?
They are here. They are here. I don't know if Pete, you want to allow, if the council would like to allow the applicant to address that question.
Chad, what's their name?
Melissa Tapinis.
Yeah, I see her there. I see the attorney there. I guess the question is what is our position? What's the village's position on it? Is it
No, my question is, will it hurt them if we wait till the next meeting? That's my question.
I see. Okay. Certainly. Ms. Tapanis?
Yes. Good evening, Mayor, honorable members of the council. I represent the property owner. And yes, a 1 month delay will negatively impact the property owner. We've been in this process for several months in the village of Key Biscayne. And if possible, I do have a presentation and I could walk Mr. Laredo through our request. And it does not propose any zoning changes. In fact, it is simply to reconfigure an internal lot line to the property. Today it's 2 lots. It'll continue to be 2 lots.
Okay.
Thank you.
So it will. I mean, I think that's their response, that it will affect them.
In that case, Luis, would you consider listening to that presentation tonight? It's pretty straightforward and simple.
Yeah, I know it's straightforward and simple, but probably one of our, we're spending a lot of time and money in developing, and we'll hear more later about vision. And these are the incremental decisions that can change some of the nature of our community. As a matter of personal courtesy, it may be for them 2 or 3 months, but since we, councilor, are volunteers and have jobs and other responsibilities, I received this package promptly on Thursday. As you know, we have several big contracts and a lot of money that we discussed today, so I have to prioritize. I don't know what would be urgent. That could not wait another 3 weeks for me to make an intelligent and thoughtful decisions as I try to do. It's not in any way precluding or prejudgment the merits of your application. It is simply a matter of workload, as we all are volunteers. This is a very heavy agenda. If you have a copy of it, you would see that it's about 4 inches thick, and it's as simple as that. I do not see where this replotting would be, quote, urgent, to be honest with you, in my long experience in other matters, including banking. But I would just ask my colleagues as a courtesy so that I get better prepared.
Would you consider extending her the courtesy to listen to?
I'd be happy to, but I'm saying, we're playing with words here. We're playing with words,
right?
And I have the grace of the rabbi to protect me from you today.
Councilmember, could I ask you a question?
The question is, I'm not ready to vote today, sir.
And understood, but as a courtesy,
I'd be happy to hear the presentation.
That's what I'm saying. And absolutely understood. You would, can we agree that, why don't we do that? Let's leave the item in, allow her to make.
And he can table if he wants to.
And then he can table it. Exactly. That's my point. At that point, he'll have the right to table. And frankly, as a courtesy to a council member, I can understand that. But okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to amend the amendments. We're going to withdraw the resolution 10B from being deferred. We're going to leave it on the agenda for now in order to allow the attorney to make her presentation. And then we'll see where we are at that point. Does everybody understand what we're voting on?
Yes.
Okay. All those, I'm sorry, Madam.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. Mr. Attorney?
Yes, I would like to call an executive session in the matter of Martinez versus Key Biscayne, case number 2019-030802CA01. The purpose of the executive session will discuss strategy going forward regarding the litigation.
April 6th. Can we do that right at 5:30? Could everybody meet up at 5:30 before our April 6th meeting?
Yes.
That's fine.
Okay. Everybody in agreement? Yep. Okay, great.
All right, thank you.
All right, and our next.
The next item on the agenda, Mr. Mayor, is a special presentation, Strategic Vision Board with Luis Laredo.
No, Luis de la Cruz.
No.
Luis de la Cruz. Luis Laredo was certainly not prepared for this presentation.
Oh, you want to have it now instead of at the end?
He's going. Luis de la Cruz needs to present now because he's got another engagement.
Okay, that's fine. I didn't understand.
So yeah, so
he's
meeting now. Lucho, where is he? He's got his hand up, maybe. *6.
I have heard that some people are having problems calling in.
Okay, can you hear me?
There he is. We can hear you. Yes, sir.
Great. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Manager, Honorable Councilman Luis de la Cruz, 640 Allendale Road, Key Biscayne, Florida. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to speak to you. I just a couple of words. The Vision Council, which is what I would like for you to consider calling it going forward, rather than the 240 vision, which is not very good vision. Members are ready, willing, and able to continue to serve the village of Key Biscayne once you all decide how many of us will remain. If it's all of us, then that much better. If you decide that you want to cut it down to 7, like you had discussed before, then that's fine. But what I'm saying is that we're all ready, willing, and able finally to get going with the consultant who has also been ready, willing, and able to go. And we had been hamstrung a little bit because we we're not official. We were timed out, so to speak. So the next, we've done all the steps leading up to the community involvement section of our project, and basically we're ready to go. Everybody. I can just tell you that this is a great group of people, fantastic group of people. All of them have, almost everyone always attended. Every once in a while we'd have somebody miss, but everybody was raring to go all the time. And now that we have been armed with our consultant, I want to tell you that we're ready to go, and just let us go. That's it. And please change the name to Vision Board. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to respond.
One question to you, and this has been an issue I think we have already voted to reduce it to 7, but what is your feeling? Keep it to 10 or go to 7? That's really my question to you. Thoughts?
Actually, it was 11.
11. I apologize. 11.
I serve at your pleasure, and we all serve at your pleasure. I think 11 was fine. Sometimes it was a lot of people, but 11 was fine. 7 is fine too. 9 will be fine. Everybody on that board wanted to serve, and the ones that you decide won't be serving, I'm sure will be disappointed. But and again, if you want to think about this, our very next action on that board is community involvement, which all I can say is the more people we have on the board, the more that we can rile up involvement. So to that extent, maybe you want to think about that. But again, whatever number you want is fine. We never found it to be unwieldy when we had 11. We run really good meetings, and I think everybody on that committee is a witness to that.
Lucio, can I interrupt?
Whatever you guys want to do.
So that we can move on.
Yes, sir.
And all of the people on that committee, the 11, are extraordinary people, like you have said. And it has nothing to do with either their work nor them personally. We had, specifically, I have it in front of me, almost a year ago, March 12, 2019, a whole review and a lot of work to streamline, get everything up to date and standardize as is normal, all of the boards. And at that time, and I think in the last meeting we decided it's all called for 7. So it's a question of being, we set rules, and before we set the rule, there are exceptions. We either do that or just throw it up. But we made a decision to do 7, and in fact, we sort of voted for it last time and say that to look to you to help us engage those who be less than 7. It would say, when it first was formed, we kept adding names, but in short, this has nothing to do with a specific charge of your committee. It has nothing to do with any of the member. It has to do whether we will be consistent on our thing. And out of that, I think 7 will be great because there isn't any compelling, urgent reason to make an exception. Otherwise, then in a way, we wasted a lot of effort and thoughtful deliberations on and streamlining the workshop, the boards, 2 years ago, March 12, 2019, right after I came in.
I just wanted to have him.
I hope you understand that that's where it's coming from. It's not coming from anywhere else.
Are we talking about this?
I understand.
I just wanted to get the chairman's input because he and I had spoken about this when I was talking about either, if we were going to go to 7 and what his thoughts were. And so that was all. I just wanted to make sure it was clear to everybody that it was not his desire necessarily to reduce, but as Councilmember Laredo has said, that we've had conversations about this. But if we want to talk about this later, I think that's appropriate. But now I wanted the presentation to be conducted. Now, we will be coming back to that later on because we'll be talking about the appointments to the board, and then we'll be talking about all the advisory boards.
Okay.
So we can have that
Thank you,
conversation
Mayor.
internally.
Thank you, Luis.
Thank you, Luis.
Luis, I left you the bill at the
Appreciate it. And
pay it.
Okay. I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Mayor, is the consent agenda.
Moved. Second.
That means that we can go over. I have some issues with the minutes.
Okay. Well, do you want to pull the minutes, or are they things that you?
No. Oh, I see what you mean.
The clerk.
I'm confused about. No, just some typos and stuff.
Okay. I guess, are they substantive issues, or are they things that you could just
Well,
pass?
the only that is substantive is the Mayor, and I can with the February 23rd.
Right.
There's 2 paragraphs on page 6 in which I bring up the issue of the great work that the police department of Miami and Metro-Dade has done for us in Rickenbacker.
Yes.
And requesting you to write a letter. It's deleted there. It just stopped. It says the consensus of the council authority to let appreciation for what? She just needs to work on it. Was the meat of it.
Oh, I see. About the police work. The police work on the causeway.
On the causeway and thanking them for the support they give us.
I don't think that's any.
And the 20 on the minutes from last year. I just have a quick question for the clerk. Is this for you? Are we now up to date on all the past ones that were left behind?
No, sir.
No. Okay.
Just getting us through. We talk a lot up here. All right. Are you with that correction? Are there any other comments? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Oh, sorry. Mr. Manager?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. In light of the fact that you all are approving these CBAs, the presidents of your unions wanted to have a quick moment with you to say thanks. And I would hope that will allow them to have a couple
absolutely. I'll allow it.
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
May I have a clarification? Did you move the consent agenda?
Yes, Frank moved it. I seconded it.
Thank you.
So I would ask first for Dan Feeney to speak on behalf of the fire department.
Sir.
Can you hear me? Oh, great. You called on me before I got my notes. I lost my notes. Well, do I need to go through my address? I lived at 560 Crandon for 28 years now, about a third of my life. Dan Feeney with your fire department, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to address you because I know you're addressing to ratify our contracts tonight. Obviously, I'm asking for your support. And briefly, not to be long-winded, wanted to just really point out that you're firefighters, and I think I speak for all first responders. We get how difficult your job is, in a year full of COVID, fiscally responsible, watching your liabilities, protecting your residents, protecting your employees. We get that. So when people come asking for things in tough times, it means a lot to the firefighters. And the process has been long and hard on everyone. God, I wish I had my notes. I had a really great 2-minute speech written. I'm blowing you away, but I'm lost now. But the one thing that comes out of this is, whether you agree or not, is I hope we recognize this process is really broken. The communication is that it ends up lawyers fighting back and forth, and there's no real problem solving between labor and the body. I mean, the council, and we got a bunch of sharp firemen and cops, and if you give us a problem, I think we can mutually come to solutions in the future, and hopefully we can work together. I appreciate the interim manager gave me a voice, and everybody knows Chief Press, and he's not short on words. If you're full of it, he's going to tell you what to do with it, and he did. So, but he gave us a voice, and he listened to us, and he let us try to solve problems with you. So, in closing, I know it's been a difficult year. We do appreciate what you did. Your first responders, over 40% of my department tested positive, and we didn't get the chance to work from home. They stepped up. So did the cops. And it's, I'm not bragging on us, which I would go on for hours. So I'll stop now. But council, thank you very much for considering this and for what you do. We do appreciate it. Manager, thanks for giving us a voice. Chief Lang, thanks for leadership. And I thank everybody. Thank to the first responders and our firefighters for really being there this last year.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I would like to introduce Lieutenant.
Hey, Dan, before Dan goes.
Yes, sir.
I want the people to know that while you may be a terrible speaker, you're one hell of a firefighter.
100%.
I'm taking classes. You guys will hear more from me. I'll try to get better at this. Thank you, sir.
I'd also like to introduce Lieutenant Danny Valdez, who will speak on behalf of the lieutenants, sergeants, and police officers.
Where is he? Is he raising his hand?
Okay, I think he just signaled me, and he does not have a signal right now. He's trying to get in. So I'll speak on behalf of those police officers, so I won't let this meeting go on too long. They're extremely appreciative. They voted unanimously. It was a slam dunk, and they did want to express their thanks, their appreciation to the council and to the people in the village of Key Biscayne for all of the support, especially during this last year. It's been so tough. And the last thing I wanted to say is, we talk about our police and fire a lot. There was another union that was involved here that you all agreed to support, and that was the civilians who work for us, our support. They work extremely hard. They bring it to the table every day. And on behalf of them, they appreciate everything you did also. And I thank you myself, and that's it. Let's move on.
Thank you all. All right, next.
And it is approved as corrected. The next item, Mr. Mayor, is the first reading of a capital project authorizing ordinance of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, approving the purchase of a Pierce Enforcer PUC pumper fire truck and related equipment from 10-8 Fire and Safety LLC in an amount not to exceed $750,000, authorizing the issuance of a fire equipment revenue bond of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, in the aggregate principal amount not exceeding $750,000 for the purpose of financing the purchase of the fire truck, providing for a supplemental resolution setting forth the details of the bond, authorizing the village manager to negotiate with banks for purchase of the bond, declaring certain fire rescue equipment as surplus property, authorizing the sale of disposition of surplus property, and providing an effective date.
Moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Council, it is recommended by me that the Village Council adopt the attached capital project authorizing ordinance approving the purchase of a Pierce Enforcer PUC pumper to be used as an advanced life support fire suppression emergency response unit for the fire rescue department in the amount not to exceed $750,000, inclusive of accessory equipment, and authorize the issuance of a fire equipment revenue bond. I'm going to have two speakers tonight. I'm going to have Chief Lang talk about his request, and then I'm going to bring Benjamin in so he could talk about the financial aspect of what we're asking for. Chief Lang.
Evening, Chief.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Mr. Mayor and Council, good evening. Thank you all for the time tonight. As you've already heard, I'm asking you to approve this ordinance on first reading for the purchase. This is a topic that I know that I have discussed with all of you, and I appreciate your time. We've been planning this since 2016. We are replacing a 20-year-old piece of equipment due to safety issues, equipment that can't be replaced because it's antiquated and they don't make parts. And I met with our apparatus committee members today and one of our driver's engineers, and he took me around the truck and showed me some of the problems and some of the examples of the system failures that regularly occur. And so it's not just we want a new truck because we want a new truck. I assure you this is not a Cadillac, but it's designed to deliver the level of service that this community has come to expect. The same way we built this truck 20 years ago, the needs of the community has changed, the needs of our equipment have changed, safety standards have changed, and this is essentially a big red toolbox that has lights and sirens on it that makes the kids happy, but at the end of the day, it's a piece of essential safety equipment. We will be selling the existing equipment after about 12 or 13 months when the new delivery comes. And we will do everything we need to do to advertise that nationally. I could not have done this work without an awesome team, and you'll be hearing from Benjamin. And I assure you that the best financial options for this purchase will be made and based on his recommendations. I thank him and Chad and Heidi for the effort that they put into this. I do have a request. In order for us to save 3%, and Benjamin may be going into this a little bit, that we need to complete this contract or have the authority to complete this contract before the end of the month. And so I was proposing a special call meeting for March 30th. And just one more thing before I turn this over to Benjamin. It's unique to have the support from a top cop, which I greatly appreciate Chief Press supporting a purchase of a fire truck. And there's probably not too many police chiefs that can say that. So from your fire chief to the manager, thank you for your support. And I assure you once again, I will put you behind the wheel of a fire truck. So I'm available for any questions, whether it's now or after we speak with Benjamin. Thank you.
Why don't we have Benjamin speak, and then we'll get all the questions in at once. Thank you. Mr. Nussbaum.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Benjamin Nussbaum, Chief Financial Officer. As you heard from Eric, to justify the purchase of the truck, I'd like to walk you through the financing of the vehicle. Just last week, I put out a solicitation to over 75 banks and lending institutions to procure financing for the fire truck. The deadline to respond is in 2 weeks. At that time, we will then come forward with council. We'll analyze the bids that we received and present the best and cheapest with the most favorable terms to the village in terms of financing the truck. There's room in our budget available for the financing due to some existing vehicle loans falling off at the end of this fiscal year. Therefore, I don't anticipate the annual debt service having a significant budget impact for the fiscal year 22 budgets and therefore. I'm happy to answer any questions in regards to the financing option, and I hope to present those terms to you at a future council meeting.
Okay. I just have a couple of questions just to reiterate. I see in the information we received, essentially the sort of time is of the essence here, because if we don't buy now this truck, assuming, I'm obviously assuming we need this vehicle, that the cost is going to go up by 3%. So that's an additional almost $21,000. And then moreover, if we can get this thing done, if we get it approved by the 31st and paid for by the 15th, we can save an additional $18,800. So we're talking about a savings of almost $40,000 off this. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right. Vice Mayor?
We're saving $18,800 by paying in advance. how much is our interest cost going to be on that money? Is that net savings or is that gross savings?
Yeah, that's the savings from the vendor. We're not going to know the interest cost until we receive the solicitations back.
I understand what you said. Say that again.
We don't know what the interest is going to be because we haven't received anything from the banks. We haven't received any offers from the banks.
Okay.
This is just a cost. This is a reduction.
This is a gross savings.
This is a gross savings.
Gross. That was my question.
Correct.
And believe it or not, I'm not going to speak against the truck. Actually, I'm going to speak for the truck. I like to see Eric smile occasionally. And normally I would say a truck with 30,000 miles in 20 years, it's like 125 miles a week, so to speak, or less, probably shouldn't be replaced. But as Eric said, the major problem is you can't get parts to fix it anymore. They stopped making them. And we also, since it's such in good shape, we should be able to get a significant amount of money for it. And Eric has pledged to do this nationally to get the best possible price for this. So hopefully we will recover some of our investment in the truck. So I'm all for it.
You can put it on eBay.
Good life in that truck.
Councilmember
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. The Rabbi Caroline.
He does really work miracles.
I'm telling you, I believe in this spiritual power.
He should certainly get a ride on the truck.
Councilmember Kaplan?
Yeah, I would also support this and support the proposition of the special meeting that Chief Lang suggested. So we should make that decision as well so we can take advantage of this.
Just so everybody's aware, I will be out of town on the 31st. I will attend, but it will be virtual.
Do you want to do a special meeting on either the Thursday or Friday?
He said the 30th.
The 30th, 31st. I'm out from the 25th until the 1st.
You want to do it on Thursday or Friday prior?
Thursday I'm gone. Thursday or Friday prior I'm gone, and they're not going to have the bids back until the 23rd. Is that correct? So they need time. Councilmember Segurola?
I'm yes on both, and for the truck and for having another meeting. My question is, Benjamin, how much time after you get the bids do you need before we can have a meeting?
So we're okay with the compressed timeline. I'm gonna work with our bond counsel to turn it around for the second meeting in March. At that time, we'll present the terms, but we won't bring forward a final resolution until sometime in April.
Okay, but if you get the response to the bids on the 23rd, which is 2 weeks from today, Tuesday, would you be able to speak to us 24th, 25th, or 26th, I guess is my question.
So I'd prefer to speak to you guys at the same meeting, the special call meeting on the 30th, if I'm understanding your question correctly.
Well,
he's asking if we could call a different meeting. Yeah, call it an earlier meeting.
What's the earliest?
No, the due date for the solicitation, I believe, was the 20th. It was like the last date possible where I could get it ready for that meeting.
I'll appear, but I'm going to have to be virtual. Okay. So somebody else is just going to have to sit here.
Sorry. So the earliest is the 30th.
I'm not going to be on a boat somewhere in the Caribbean, but I'm not going to be here. Yeah.
We are shooting for the 30th.
Okay. Councilmember Moss?
No, I just want to say the 30th. I think we should do the 30th as well.
The 30th?
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
Councilmember McCormick. Sorry, you're here. You don't have that light shining on you at home, so I just miss you here.
I have great light at home. This is not nice light here. I am also available and support the purchase of the truck and for the meeting. And to Chief Lang, thanks for throwing in the Cadillac comment. I know that came from me, that I wanted only to pay for what we really needed. So thank you. But yeah, I'm available for the meeting and I support the purchase of the truck.
Excellent. Okay, let's call the question.
You need to do a public hearing?
Well, yeah, you're right. Public comments? Anybody here to speak about the truck? No, because we have Ed's already here, so nobody's going to call in about this. All right, call the question. Oh, I'm sorry.
While we're doing, I just want to make sure. So the clerk will need to advertise for second reading for the 30th, and because it's a capital authorizing ordinance, the village clerk will also need to mail postcards out to. I believe it's all electors as the charter provides, but we'll confirm that. But that will be happening within the next couple of weeks.
Well, it's got to happen the next week, right? You've only got 3 weeks. So,
yep.
All right.
Thank you. Councilmember Kaplan?
Yes.
Councilmember Laredo,
Yes.
Vice Mayor London,
Yes.
Councilmember McCormick,
Yes.
Councilmember Moss,
Yes.
Councilmember Segurola,
Yes.
Mayor Davey.
Yes.
The ordinance is approved on first reading. The next item, Mr. Mayor, is a capital project authorizing resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, approving the purchase of 8 vehicles from Allen J. Automotive Management, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $300,000, providing for authorization, declaring certain vehicles as surplus property, authorizing the sale or disposition of surplus property, providing for implementation, and providing for an effective date.
Moved. Second.
Thank you.
Mr. Manager.
Council, I want to say something before I actually start. The police department has been charged with overseeing the entire fleet of the village. So when we come before you and ask for vehicles, it won't necessarily be just police cars. It could be fire cars, parks and rec, and that's what we're doing tonight. And it's my recommendation that the Village Council approve the attached reso authorizing the purchase of 8 vehicles, inclusive of emergency equipment, graphics, and related costs in an amount not to exceed $300,000. Funding in the amount of not to exceed is approved in the FY21 amended capital improvement plan budget for vehicle. Funding will be replenished into the CIP vehicle plan from the expected salvage value of the disposed vehicles, as well as the insurance settlement for a damaged fire vehicle for an estimated amount of $31,724. So I have asked Deputy Chief Jason Eunice, our administrative chief, to provide you the information on following our village policy for replacement vehicles. And then I'm going to ask Benjamin to discuss the finances. Eunice.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, Chief Preston. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Chief.
Good evening. We're requesting this purchase. These are vehicles that fall within the fleet replacement policy. They actually exceed the requirement as far as mileage and years. What we're asking, out of the 8 vehicles, 6 will be police department vehicles. 1 is going to be a fire department vehicle, and the other is going to be the administrative vehicle that's used village-wide by our municipal utility workers. They're the ones that deliver packets to the attorneys, that run errands for the village. And that's all I have. If you have any questions, or we could go to Ben.
Let's hear from Ben, and then we'll open it up for questions from everybody.
Good evening again. I'd like to reiterate the purchase of the 8 vehicles here presented today are consistent with our fleet replacement policy. The fact of the matter is we've had a little trouble getting our replacement policy adhering to it and getting it off the ground. The reality is we have more than these 8 vehicles that exceed both the mileage and year requirements. However, the danger in replacing all of them at once is then in 5 or 7 years, the useful life of the asset, you then have to do a major replacement all at once. The purpose of the fleet replacement policy is to keep a standard uniform purchase going every single year, as to not have any significant budget impacts and peaks and troughs where you be required to increase the millage. So this purchase here is consistent with that policy. The intent is to make a similar purchase every year for any vehicle that then hits the mileage or useful life threshold. For these vehicles, depending, and we included the policy as an attachment to the agenda item, because you can see there's different lives and mileage requirements depending on the use of the vehicle.
Vice Mayor?
Mr. Mayor?
Vice Mayor, and then Councilmember Laredo.
I assume the fleet policy for replacement is based on a large pool of vehicles, and that's why they come up with so many years and so many miles. But all of us have owned cars, trucks, whatever, over the period of years, know that things aren't uniform. And some cars last 5 years, 10, some 20. And yet the policy we say replace them, whether they're good or bad, at a certain period of time. It's my opinion that also this has excessive cost to us, and our fleet replacement policy is not in the best interest of the village. And if these 8 vehicles need to be replaced because they're no longer serviceable or the cost to maintain them is excessive, then I'm for it. But if you're just going to replace them because the policy says 100,000 miles, 70,000 miles, so many years replacing, then I'm clearly against it because I think that'll be a waste of money.
Councilmember Laredo, and then I think Councilmember Moss, and then the manager wanted to say something. Councilmember Laredo?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, thank you, Mayor. Both the deputy chief and our financial used the words exceed requirement. I just wanted to translate to what I believe is plain English to our citizens. It means not that it exceeds the requirement, the minimum requirements of a new vehicle, but rather the minimum requirements for safety and policy of the old vehicle. It didn't come across very clearly. I want people to understand that the allegation is that these vehicles that we now have are basically outdated as per standard policy, and I imagine which probably reflects practices of police department. I don't believe we would have invent our own policy. So, I mean, I just want to clarify that because it didn't come across.
That's absolutely
and
correct.
Second, though, it may not affect this decision. Is that correct?
Yes, it is, sir. These vehicles, okay. Yes, these vehicles are beyond.
It may be too late, but yeah, when you say it exceeds requirement, meaning you know what I mean, that we're buying a Cadillac instead of a Chevrolet, but that's not the case. That's fine. In terms of, since we're all in the climate change and all the other stuff, on fuel efficiency, Chief, did we make any effort to bring down the cost of the fuel and efficiency on these new fleet?
These cars are fuel efficient. They're green. They aren't hybrids because of we were going back and forth on the water issues and electrical. So these are fuel efficient cars. They're green, but they are not hybrids.
But they're better than what we have now.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Councilmember Moss.
I just wanted to bring up that I did speak to Benjamin. I spoke to our chief, our interim manager, and my understanding is that these cars need to be replaced, that the service is now extremely expensive to keep them maintained. And but I also do agree with Councilmember London. I think we need to look at our policy because I do believe some cars can outlive the 7-year for sure. I mean, I'm driving in an 8-year-old car and it works fine. I know there are some issues with public safety vehicles that we need to be concerned about. And I think that now that Benjamin is putting together a annual cost to do replacement of vehicles, it's easier to see what our change on our policy will do on our budget on an annual basis. And I spoke to him about that today too. So I'm going to support this today, but you know, Councilmember London, I'm okay with us looking at the policy we have out there and make adjustments. But I think the one that we're voting on today is actually needed.
Okay, Councilmember McCormick, and then Councilmember Kaplan.
I think I need help. It's not my computer. So today we're just voting on the cars, and as I understand, this is a necessary purchase. But I would like to just echo some other council members and Councilmember London that keeping in mind that some cars last longer than others, that perhaps maybe down the road a little bit or at another meeting, it would make sense to look at our replacement policy and see if there's some way to add a little bit more flexibility in there while maintaining the sort of financial burden. So maybe even if it means we're not actually replacing a car in the year that it would come up because it's still working and it still meets our needs, maybe we put the money aside at that point so that we don't see those big peaks and valleys and keep a steady a steady line there in the budget. But as far as the cars go, I do support the purchase. But I would like to see if we could bring it back to look a little closer at our policy. Thank you.
Councilmember Kaplan?
I had thoughts on procurement and the policy, but I think I'll just defer until we have that conversation.
Okay. Vice Mayor, you want to say something else?
Yeah, one more question. You mentioned one of the cars, I think Jason or Chuck, I can't remember, is for the utility worker to deliver packages on Key Biscayne, et cetera. Because basically he's on Key Biscayne. Why do we have to buy a car? Why can't we get a golf cart or something similar? So just for Key Biscayne, electric, much less expensive. Why do we have to buy a car for that?
It's a good question, sir. Okay.
This vehicle has been used by every department in the city to not just do deliverables around the village, but to go into the city of Miami, Miami-Dade County, pick up supplies wherever we need them, and bring them back. The vehicle that we're replacing is not only old, it's become a health hazard. It actually rains on you in the rain, and we're dealing with mold in that vehicle. So we decided to, go smaller because that was a hand-me-down vehicle. We went green on that car, but it doesn't just stay within the village of Key Biscayne. That's a great question. I'd also like to remind the council and tell you all that we're extremely diligent in our purchase of vehicles throughout the village. And there is a difference between purchasing a car for our municipal utility worker to pick up things versus an emergency vehicle that we need for police and fire. We understand that. We have run these vehicles into the ground. We have a great system to maintain them. We've extended. I would say literally 4 years we've extended. And we're just at our end on these cars. So we'll bring that policy back to you. But I believe that policy discusses emergency vehicles and then simply service vehicles or vehicles that aren't at that level.
Okay. Let's call the question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item, Mr. Mayor, is a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, approving a waiver of plat for property located at 960 Harbor Drive, providing for conditions, providing for recording, and providing for an effective date.
I'll move it. Second.
Mayor,
yes.
Because this is a zoning item, this is a quasi-judicial item. The members that are speaking tonight
have to be sworn in.
Typically, underneath our procedure, the staff first gives the presentation, then the applicant. I'm not sure if that's how the council would like to proceed tonight, but that's our typical procedure. And then we open it up for a public hearing.
Well, I mean, let's follow the procedure so that whatever decision we make is the decision. I mean, understanding this is an item that Councilmember Laredo has asked to be deferred, and as a courtesy to the attorney who's here, we're gonna hear the presentation, and then we'll make a determination as a council how we're going to proceed on this. Do we need everybody sworn in?
So what I would do, since usually when we're in the chambers, we swear everybody in at the same time, right? But because we're doing this virtually, what I would ask is before someone speaks, we swear them in at that time. So if the staff is going to speak first, Chuck, are you going to? You'll turn it over to Jake, I guess, and Jake should get sworn in, or to Scarlett, and she should be sworn in, and then we'll move on down the list.
Perfect. All right, why don't, Chad, can you just walk us through it? Just tell Jocelyn who she has to do, what she has to do, and let's just take it step by step.
I will. Chuck, are you, Jake, are you going to, why don't you introduce the item, Jake, and then you can turn it over to Scarlett. Jocelyn, please swear in Jake. You can just say, that ask him to raise his hand and say that he swears and affirms that the testimony he's going to provide tonight is the truth.
Please raise your hand. Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you're giving tonight is the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and Manager. The item before you this evening is the waiver of plat for the properties located at 960 Harbor Drive. Currently, there are 2 existing independent lots within their own folio numbers. And there's currently 1 house with a guest home and another accessory structure and associated improvements on the property. The location of the existing shared property line creates a legally non-conforming configuration within the existing single-family home, and existing family home is encroaching across the property line. The proposed modification would remedy this non-conformity. In order to accomplish this objective, it is necessary to file a waiver of plat with the village, which is before you this evening. That's a quick introduction. I will turn it over to applicants representative for a presentation.
Before Melissa speaks, can you please swear her in, Jocelyn?
Please raise your hand. Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you are giving tonight is the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, honorable council members. My name is Melissa Tapanez with at offices of 200 South Biscayne Boulevard. I'm here representing the existing property owner, the resident, under 2 ownerships, La Pollito Family Trust and Tarpon Holdings. With me today is the property owner and resident, Jose Antonio Canedo, Mark Johnson, our surveyor, as well as my colleague at Burkow, Nick Rodriguez. If I may share my screen, I do have a presentation for you that I hope will, perfect. I hope you can all see it. Mm-hmm. Excellent, thank you. So this is the property. It's 2 parcels of land. They're about 34,000 square feet each. They're located at the tip of the Harbor Drive Peninsula within the Cape Florida neighborhood of the village. These 2 lots were unified through a unity of title in 1997 to allow the construction of an addition to the existing residence that encroaches on the interior lot line. Notably, this unity of title was never recorded into the public records, and the county didn't have any records, so the owner did not have a record or knowledge of this unity of title when they purchased the property. The property is 2 platted parcels, and it is 2 Miami-Dade County separate folio numbers. What we're proposing to do is simply relocate the interior property line as shown before you. You can see that there is the original lot line, and we're simply moving it to the proposed lot line. We're respectfully requesting your approval of this waiver of plat simply to, again, shift this internal lot line to preserve the original 2-lot condition in a manner that preserves the existing single-family home and eliminates the nonconformity. Section 3023 of the Village Code requires that subdivision of property result in lots that comply with the village's land development regulations. The proposed waiver of plat results in lots that conform with the property's land use designation that requires a 15,000 square foot minimum lot size, as well as the village estates zoning district that requires a 10,000 square foot minimum lot size. The proposed waiver of plat results in lots that are over 40,000 square feet and over 28,000 square feet, which remain among the largest in the Cape Florida neighborhood. The applicant has agreed to staff's proposed conditions of approval that require the demolition of a central accessory structure and this tiki hut that encroach into the required 7.5 foot new property line. The applicant intends to retain the main home at the west lot. We wanted to make sure that our neighbors were comfortable with this request as they received notices of this public hearing. So the applicant went door to door as much as COVID protocol would allow and secured the support of its neighbors. We did submit earlier today into the record the abutting property owner as well. These neighbors recognize that this is a minor request and the importance of being flexible when it comes to making changes to properties that have no impact on the neighborhood. These letters have been submitted into the record for these proceedings, and we're hopeful that you received a copy of that along with this application documents. So I'm going to stop my share, and it's a pretty straightforward request that we're asking for. I'm available to answer any questions that you may have, and I'm hopeful that we'll earn your approval today.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Segurola, I see you.
Council, just one question. I think I know the answer, but I just want to have it on the record. Will this internal change have any effect now or in the future on any other properties adjacent to this one?
No, not at all. This is simply a waiver of plat. The density remains the same. It's 2 parcels today. That's consistent with how the Cape Florida subdivision was platted in the 1950s. So there's no change. It's simply to realign the interior lot line. Because again, the property owner and resident did not have any notice in the public record or otherwise of the unity of title that was submitted to the city in 1997 when it was a proposed addition to the existing residence. So we're just trying to clean it up.
Chad, okay, did you have something to say, Chad? Do we have to open up for public comment, or?
We do.
Okay, let's do that now.
For Councilmember Seguirola's point, I think what he was asking is, yeah, this will not create a legal precedent for the future. So if you would, you can open up for public comment, and we would.
Pete, can you open this up, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Ladies and gentlemen watching us on Channel 77 on Comcast, Channel 99 on AT&T, or streaming us live via our website. If you wish to speak at this public hearing, please dial the following phone number: 305-365-7569. Then please enter meeting ID of 231-627-8415. For those of you currently in the meeting that wish to speak at the public hearing, please either dial *9 on your telephone or raise your hand in the Zoom app. Mr. Mayor, I have no one signed up to speak.
Okay. Councilmember Kaplan and then Councilmember Laredo.
I assume that no neighbors objected. Is that the case?
Yes, that is the case.
What do we do, I mean, to clean this up once the line, assuming we approve this, is relocated? Do we replat? Do we file a survey sketch that marks the new line? And do you do the unity of title now that, we paper over this?
So what's going to happen next, Councilmember Kaplan, is it's a waiver of plat, which the county now requires those resolutions to be recorded. But the next step will be that they will go to the county. It will go before the county staff there. They will review it, and then once the county says it's fine, then we will record that resolution, and it will have effectively a survey attached to it showing the new lines. But prior to that recordation occurring, the structures that were shown in the presentation will have to be demolished.
Mm-hmm. What about the unity of title? Is that?
No, the unity of title was, and it will not be needed, as these are going to be 2 separate standalone parcels. So effectively what will happen most likely is that the main house can remain and the owner will likely sell off the other lot. That's what's going to happen.
Okay.
Councilmember Laredo?
Yes, as I've said at the beginning, I'm not questioning the merits. I questioned the time that I had, and because I appropriately prepared for the other items that happily went through. So I have read not one page of this, and I waited until Sunday to reach that conclusion to see if I can catch up with all the reading. And it strikes me as odd that if I'm correct in what I'm hearing from council, that this non-conforming was done in 1997, and what we're trying to correct arises from 1997. That's approximately 24 years. And all I'm requesting is approximately 28 days as a courtesy for me to be prepared. And that seems to be so urgent that it can't wait. I'm sort of taken aback. I thought this was going to be a rather simple request as a courtesy for me to be prepared. I do not take, Mr. London knows well that I served in many loan committees and banks, and also we had a previous decision that was controversial, different type. And I want to take my time when it has anything to do with changing whatever legal term you want to use, whether it's plotting, zoning, etc. That's all I'm asking for, a little time, without prejudging it. I'm not judging it at all.
The point is taken. Vice Mayor, did you have something to say? Did you raise your hand? Or?
You mentioned, Luis, that this was non-conforming. This will be conforming. If the minimum lot size is 15,000 feet, and both these lots are significantly bigger. So this is conforming use. It meets the zoning requirements. It doesn't affect the village one iota. I mean, I've looked at it very carefully, and I know I'm sorry that you haven't had the time, but in my opinion, this is a no-brainer. Really, it doesn't affect us at all. It does help these people. They employed all these people that came here. So that was the only thing why I didn't want to, if it was possible for you to look at it and say, fine, okay, if not, you table it and we'll go next time. So I'm going to leave it in your hands.
Yeah, and I may not have used the right term. That's why I said whatever the term is, non-conforming. The fact is that, let's just call it this defect that we're trying to correct.
Well, it's not really a defect at all.
Okay, but so pick the word you want, Ed. Whatever word it is, whatever it is we're trying to correct arises from 1997. And I'm asking for a 28 delay versus 24 years, and it cannot be granted. I mean,
no one said
actually,
no one said that.
I mean, what is so compelling?
You want to table it, table it. That's all.
That's all I wanted from the beginning.
Look, I normally we would bend over backwards to accommodate a request. It occurs to me that the cost or consequence, at least, is possibly requiring Melissa to reappear and incur additional expense at a subsequent meeting. If it's of any interest, I understand this. I'm prepared to vote. But if it's the will of everyone and to push it, then I guess the question is there a consequence beyond cost and annoyance to the owner or owners in doing so? That's, I suppose, a question for Melissa.
Well, I think, obviously her position, and understandably, I mean, any of us who are attorneys would say that it's going to harm their client. I get that. But I think there's a greater point in terms of what Councilmember Laredo is saying. I mean, he's asked us as a courtesy to defer, to table it. And I understand the frustration of the owners but I do understand that we up here have, I mean, there are traditions and there are things that we are requested to do. And he has made, and it wasn't that he waited until tonight. He actually sent this out, I believe, yesterday. He sent out an email on Sunday, apologize, I just saw it on Monday, asking for a deferral. So it's not that we didn't know that he was going to be asking this.
I don't think there's any motion on the table deferring it. If there can be a motion, maybe we can go ahead and vote on that.
Yeah.
I move to defer.
And I will second his motion so that we can take a vote.
What about the question for Melissa? Is there something beyond cost and irritation, if that's the right word? Is there something
there? I mean, is there an immediate cost that's going to be suffered?
So the issue here is that the owner didn't have any notice of this unity of title. So they had anticipated moving forward with the sale of the second lot last year. We submitted this application in October. It's been some time to get it to this point at hearing. We thought it was straightforward. If we could make this presentation, we appreciate everyone's time and courtesy in making it. We can come back next month, of course, make the same presentation. We just thought it was something that was, straightforward, ministerial, as is a subdivision matter like this. With a favorable recommendation, we did the community outreach to make sure that there were no issues. So we just thought that this was a straightforward application. We'd appreciate your approval this evening. We understand Mr. Laredo's point of view and respect that, of course. Thank you.
I think that's,
Yeah.
Okay.
So can we, I support Luis's request. He asked us in advance. I get it. It happens to all of us. And he mentioned we had a similar, slightly different issue that came before us, which still doesn't sit well with me. So I don't want you to feel that way. So I support waiting, and I don't think it's that long.
Vice Mayor?
I support Luis also. The only thing I asked Luis, do we need to do they have to come back next time? Or do you have any other questions you want to ask?
Not if they don't want to.
Okay, so therefore, fine. I support you.
Okay. Councilmember Moss?
Yeah, I just want to bring up that, again, I support this deferral as well, but I also support that I always believe that it's been a big issue to have these quasi-judicial zoning and planning given to us on Thursday for us to have ready on Tuesday. And I think we should have a deeper discussion about this in the next April meeting. We can put it on as a discussion item where we have at least 2 weeks or something to review these things in advance before the agendas are brought out so that we are aware of what's happening and we can ask those questions, because these get much more difficult and we have to do
Amen.
A week and a half, whatever, we can have the discussion.
We used to have these meetings, Chad.
I can't imagine how thankful I am for your reflections, and also McCormick, which exactly, I didn't want to get in this conversation with these petitioners. It is really, it literally is unfair for us who are volunteers to get something that, quote, it's ministerial. I've been around the block a few times on Thursday night, but that's not her problem. But I hear you, and that's part of the reason why I want to further defer. So thank you for your reflection.
To be clear, the motion was to defer to the April 6th meeting.
To the April 6th meeting, correct.
Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got one more question. The young lady said that she submitted this in October, and this is February. What took so long to get in front of us? Why did it take 4 months?
That's what Moss is talking about.
It's a process. I mean, trying to get everything done.
And I think just what Councilmember Laredo said is that it's not just unfair to us, but it's also unfair to the applicant that we only have 3 days and we have to defer this. So if we have more time, we should be more prepared. And I think that it helps on both sides.
Well, we used to have these what are these called? These local
LPA meetings. Originally, we used to have one regular council meeting and one zoning meeting. We'd have 2 meetings a month because there was a lot of zoning items in the village. When those items stopped coming, we dropped that off because it wasn't necessary.
Right.
But it was to Councilmember Moss's point and Councilmember Laredo's point, it allowed for the council to dedicate like 1 meeting to zoning items. So they were focused on that.
All right, so we have the motion on the floor to
second.
Oh, I think it was already seconded.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're sorry.
The next item, Mr. Mayor, is a capital project authorizing resolution of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, approving a change order to the agreement with Ferraria Construction Southern Division Company, Inc. for the village's beach renourishment maintenance project in an amount not to exceed $413,436, providing for authorization and providing for an effective date.
Moved.
Second.
Mandy,
okay, let's hear the presentation from the manager and then we'll have discussion.
Per your request, we are bringing this back to you. It's recommended that the Village Council authorize the village manager to execute a change order to the contract with Ferraria Construction Southern Division Company, Inc. for the addition of 8,000 cubic yards of sand to the 2021 beach nourishment project in an amount not to exceed $413,436. This amount for the additional 8,000 cubic yards of sand is not a grant, reimbursable as it is in excess of the 23,000 cubic yards approved by FEMA for losses incurred due to Hurricane Irma. Presently, the council has approved $1,836,564. This amount includes Ferria's bid for 23,000 cubic yards of sand for the total of $1.6 million and a contingency amount of $211,000 for unforeseen circumstances. The total project cost with the change order would be $2,250,000. And I'll give this to Roland so he could speak on the addition of the sand.
Mr. Mayor, before we get into a detail, may I ask a question of the manager briefly for the people who are watching? The total project is $2,250,000.
Yes, sir.
We get from the federal government, FEMA, a reimbursement of how much?
$1,836,500. $1,836,564.
All right. So if I'm a citizen and a taxpayer, I'm getting a $2,250,000 project, which we badly need for $400,000.
That's correct, sir.
That's all you need to tell me.
That's
and I'm sure the citizens. I mean, I don't think I need a presentation myself.
Yeah, I concur. But anyway, Vice Mayor, do you have any questions?
I sure do. Roland, I asked you last time, what's the benefit of the sand? You couldn't give me a definite answer. Why? The only thing you told me was the state, village, whoever, or the federal government didn't think it was necessary. And that's why they gave us what they're giving us. But they said, well, extra sand could be good. Well, $400,000 is not a lot of money. Why are we going to go spend it if we don't know what it's going to do for us? And you don't know if it's going to last one extra day, you told me.
Councilmember London, thank you for your question. Actually, I don't believe that I said that the 23,000 cubic yards was like, I don't know exactly what the words were that you used, but they approved 23,000 cubic yards because they estimated that's what was lost during Hurricane Irma. So that's what they approved. Our permit allows for 31,000 cubic yards without having a negative impact on seagrasses. So, in speaking with our ocean engineering firm, we were both of the opinion that having more sand on the beach creates a larger buffer, which enhances shoreline protection. It's cost effective in the sense that the company has already mobilized. So in truth, you're only really paying for the sand. You're not paying for the mobilization and the demobilization. And in addition, it's not likely that we're going to be doing this again anytime really soon. And so that being said, there aren't that many opportunities to put sand on the beach to the extent that we can put the maximum amount that we're allowed to put on. We believe that it is a positive thing and it enhances shoreline protection. Like I said last time, how long it's going to last is really depending on Mother Nature and what Mother Nature throws at the beach. And that's the best that we could do. If we get a series of very heavy hurricane seasons or very heavy tropical storm seasons back to back, it'll last less time than if we don't.
How long is the lineal beach that we're going to be placing sand on? How many feet or miles?
It's about 1.2 miles.
So 1.2 on 6,000 feet, right? So basically, you're adding 1 1/3 cubic foot of sand per foot, right?
Yeah, probably thereabouts.
Okay, and that's going to be a significant difference either in the sand to keep the sand on there.
It'll make about a 6 foot difference in terms of buffer.
Oh, okay. Our dimensions of cubic yards are different. My cubic yard is 3 by 3 by 3 plus 1/3. But anyway, it doesn't matter. My point is it going to be significant? I mean, will you even notice it?
6 feet.
We're at 6 feet. I mean, I don't know. That's a very subjective question. I mean, you might notice 6 feet. Another person might.
Well, 6 feet. We're talking about cubic feet. Okay, we're talking about
width of beach.
So in other words, we don't know if it's really going to be beneficial. We don't know if we're really going to notice it. We don't know if the buffer will make any difference in a storm. But since we have a permit and it's only $400,000, Why not? Is that the idea?
Well, no, actually, that's not really the idea. The idea is that more sand on the beach creates a wider buffer. A wider buffer creates additional shoreline protection. That's it.
Under normal circumstances or under storm circumstances?
Excuse me?
Is this under normal circumstances or under storm circumstances?
Under any circumstances,
the more beach you have, the more sand you have on the beach, the wider the buffer, and the better the shoreline.
The more you're protecting.
My question is, if it's not a storm surge or storm scouring, does it make a difference under normal circumstances without a hurricane or a major storm?
I would say that it does. I mean, the fact of the matter is the beach is constantly eroding. It's constantly eroding. So the more you have there in the bank of sand, the more you can absorb that erosion, and the longer you have to go between nourishments.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilmember McCormick.
Roland, we are currently doing everything we can to try to get as much sand as we possibly can with trying to get included in the Federal Shoreline Protection Program, right?
That's correct.
So our big goal that we've been working for years is to try to expand the beach as far out towards the ocean as we can.
That's correct.
And this helps us to do it in an extremely economical way to the limit that has been set by our permit.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments?
Just to speak to Don's point when he called in earlier, is there a response?
Yeah, actually, I spoke to Don a couple of weeks ago regarding this exact question, and what I told Don then and what I'll tell Don now is that Commodore Club property is actually very, very lucky to be in the position that they are, to have as wide a beach as they have, mainly because they're benefiting from all the erosion that's happening in the middle section of the beach.
Right.
And so while I understand his position, at the end of the day, they build beaches out to a stable shoreline. And their shoreline is stable. It hasn't eroded away, and it's quite wide, and it tends to accrete, not erode. And so they should consider themselves very lucky, and they're blessed that they have a stable shoreline, and that's what everyone wishes, that we had the entire length of the beach. But
we're also protected that's my beach, full disclosure, my beach as well. We're protected by a sandbar that goes out extensively at that end of the village.
That's correct.
So that otherwise, once you come off that sandbar, as you get in front of Key Colony, the water really drops off, and there's no protection for that beach. So we are in a fortuitous position at that part of the beach, but all the more to look out for those parts of the beach. As I said, if you were out there Sunday, the wind was kicking up, and that water was pushing up onto, right in front of Silver Sands and Oceana and the start of Grand Bay. Those folks were getting squeezed back up toward the back of the beach. And I think anything we can do to enhance the beach protection there protects us all. We're one community. It's one beach. We need to look out for everybody on the island.
I'd just like to add
Mr. Mayor.
Sorry, go ahead, Councilmember Laredo.
I am so glad you brought that up. This is not a small item, and I'm glad that Kaplan brought it up again. If you recall, I've lived for 40 years in Key Biscayne and on both sides. I currently now live in Key Colony. As you recall, when I first came into the council, I had some disagreements with my people on the condominium sides when I'm pushing for undergrounding and sharing the cost. Here we are 2 years later. People voted for a significant bond to do infrastructure projects. And I stuck to the theme, which I want to make again clear. I know you hate it when I talk about this, that we're in this together. They are privileged, and other people, as I walk from their property, Key Colony on, are people who paid a lot of taxes, have barely a cent to stand on. And we have to, as a community, understand that we have to share. You just don't want to get sand because you want sand. You get sand. But underneath that, not complaint, but reflection is lacking the fact that we are in this together. Sometimes the residents of the homes pay more for some of the benefits we get, et cetera. We have to break through this kind of thinking or we're going to have a lot of problems when we go into it, implementing all other infrastructure projects. It is really a privileged beach. My God, it's so big, and I don't see that. And I know that he doesn't mean it that way, but I just like to fight every time I can this concept that we all look at, menu a la carte. No, this is a fixed menu. All of us sometimes get a little bit more than others, and this is another example. I think very timely. So while I take note of Dan's comments, I agree that we should not put sand there if they don't need it. And a lot of other citizens do need it, and taxpayers. That's my thought on that.
Councilmember McCormick, you raised your hand again, or Councilmember Segurola or Moss, did you want to speak? No? Okay, no, Councilmember McCormick.
I just wanted to add to the clarification of what I heard with what Don was asking. I think he raised a valid point that the people who live at Ocean Lane Drive want to know why they're not getting sand. And I think it's what I heard tonight sounded like a very reasonable and scientific answer, that the goal in these projects is to have a stable shoreline. And I'm so happy for the people at Ocean Lane Drive that they have that. So the answer to Don's question is you're not receiving sand because you have already achieved the stable shoreline. Is that correct, Roland?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It's a little more than that because they're accreting sand, as you say.
So they're even luckier.
Yeah. Vice Mayor, you had one more question?
Roland, this is, I guess, an education for me. And that is when the water comes in from the ocean, or the energy, I should say, comes in from the ocean, it gets dissipated, and then it stops, and then it goes out. And I guess it's called a scouring action that takes the sand with it. And if we put sand farther forward towards the ocean, will that basically create an elevation change in grade, which will then basically dissipate the energy and create a scouring action for the sand that the extra sand we're putting in there now? Or that doesn't have any kind of different effect on the scouring action of the ocean going out of the energy region?
That is a good question. It's partly the reason why we've been entertaining with the Army Corps the concept of developing an offshore submerged breakwater along the lines of, like, say, an artificial reef. Because ultimately what we'd like to see is the wave energy be dissipated on that, less energy end up on the actual beach, move less sand off of the beach. It's a tricky sort of balance, because if you don't do it properly, you can end up building the beach up towards the breakwater, and you don't want that to happen either. So there's all sorts of balances in the dynamic relative to sediment transport, but you're correct in the sense that if there is something offshore to dissipate wave energy, there'll be less erosion on the actual shoreline.
So I'm actually saying that I agree with you. I'm all for the breakwater, dissipate the energy. But I guess what I'm really saying is that if you're planning on extending the shoreline seaward, then basically, aren't we also telling the ocean, for lack of a better word, take me first?
Come and get me.
Come and get me, and basically would come and get me, because the energy now is the greatest change. When the greatest change, tell me, is that not true or not?
And not exactly, but the fact of the matter is the shoreline is constantly going to be affected by the energy of the waves coming on it, whether it's 20 feet out, 40 feet out, 30 feet out.
But the further in, the less it's affected, because the energy is dissipated, more air distance it travels. Agreed?
I wouldn't exactly say that. The energy in the waves is going to carry until it reaches the shore, and then it's going to dissipate on the shore.
Exactly.
It's not going to necessarily lose any energy on its way to the shore, because the shore is 20 feet further inland.
Well, so my question really is, then, if we're going to get the extra sand, wouldn't it make more sense just not to extend it towards seaward, but actually elevate the sand that we're putting on there now?
And in truth, that's really what's going to happen. It's the berm width of the beach where people are sort of putting their towels down and their chairs down. That'll be wider. They can only push the edge of the each river and toe of fill out into the ocean so far because they're constrained by seagrass issues. So it's really the berm of the beach that'll get widened.
Right. You're not going to extend it. Okay, thank you.
All right. Everybody ready, or anybody else want to speak?
Ready.
Okay, let's go. Call the question, please.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item, Mr. Mayor, is public comments.
Pete, do your magic.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you watching on Channel 77 on Comcast, Channel 99 on AT&T, or streaming us live via our website, if you wish to comment on any topic to council, please dial the following phone number, 305-365-7569. Then please enter the meeting ID of 231-627-8415. For those of you currently in the meeting wishing to speak, either dial *9 on your telephones or raise your hand in the Zoom app. Mr. Mayor, I have no one signed up to speak.
Yeah, I don't see anybody lingering. Okay, let's continue.
Next item, Mr. Mayor's reports and recommendations, village manager's ongoing project update.
So Mayor, council members, just a few items that I'd like to talk about tonight. First of all, the police activity report. And part and parcel to that was to have a discussion on the issues on the Bay side around the Flats area. I've deferred that per his request to Councilmember Laredo. So I'll speak on that later after he has brought up that subject. But during the month of February, we had our full motor unit out for the first time since the COVID hit us. And the 2 motor officers took a total of 96 traffic stops, wrote 75 citations, and 25 written warnings during the month of February. In addition to that, I know you all have seen the COVID report. What I have asked staff to do is, rather than update it for the few $1,000 or the $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 of salary we do every month, we will be providing you with a quarterly report until COVID has dissipated. And part of that quarterly report will bring you up to date from day one when we started until where we're at today. We just talked about the beach nourishment program, but just to tell you where we're at, starting today, we actually are bringing in our full 100 loads a day. So we are at capacity now, and we're expecting to meet our deadline should the weather hold up for that. I'm going to bring to you all the pool interior and deck resurfacing. The village budgeted $80,000 to resurface the community center pool. An invitation to bid was drafted and advertised on February 25th and will remain open until March 18th. The village staff anticipates bringing a contract for award at the April 6th meeting to have the work complete before summertime starts. You all could see the stats that we have added from the PD regarding our juvenile issues. Something that we didn't have a chance to put on here. 2 days ago, one of our very vigilant officers, 10 o'clock at night, spotted a group of teens on a golf cart. He lit them up to stop them. They immediately bailed out and ran. He was able to grab one young suspect, and that young man was able to point at the direction of the other 3. They will all be given civil citations. The owner of the golf cart will prosecute. So we're moving forward with that. And we were able to make an arrest on one of our prolific bicycle thieves that has targeted high-end bicycles through diligence and working through our detective unit. And they were able to make that arrest this weekend also. Speaking of the beach, we actually had animal control respond to us this weekend and rode with our officers for 10 hours. It is amazing that the day that animal control came to ride with us, we were not able to identify one illegal dog on the beach. So it's kind of like going to the dentist when you have a toothache, and when you get to the dentist, it doesn't ache anymore. And that's what happened with them. However, their support is there for us. They're providing us with information sheets so that we could share with our community and take care of them. I know that everybody has seen or have heard in the chats our crocodile issue on the Key. I had a very extensive discussion yesterday with FWC from Tallahassee and had a great call with the person in charge of crocodiles. And we were able to put something out today. I hope you all saw it on our Village Connect. We're putting it on our website. Information regarding crocodiles being natural habitat, Key Biscayne. They've been around forever. We reminded people that it is a criminal violation to feed those crocodiles because it actually creates a docile feeling amongst the crocs that they can approach humans, and that it's something of a concern because if something goes awry, that crocodile is still an animal or whatever you want to call them, and could possibly hurt our citizens. So we are working with FWC to do whatever we can do. They are going to be monitoring the canals, and hopefully we'll be able to have that crocodile taken away and moved away from our waters. On that, it is interesting that crocodiles are similar to other animals, and they've been known to travel miles to go back to the habitat that they're most comfortable with. So we may take Mr. Croc away, but he may show up again, going home, to natural habitat. I had a discussion briefly with the representative of the entry block per your direction. We had a great discussion. We agreed to forget about the past. There was some comments on how things worked or didn't work in the past. And I have invited Council Member Frank Kaplan to work with me, and we will meet with them next week just to put it all on the table and let's see where the negotiations lead. We'll find out what their thought processes are. We'll talk to them about some of our thoughts, and I'm thankful to Chad and Frank for being there in support, and we'll get that process started. Wherever it leads, it leads. And finally, I'll defer to Councilmember Laredo because I know that he wanted to discuss the marine issues on the Bay side. I have a lot of information to share with you after his discussion. That's all I have to report right now.
I understand.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir. Questions for the manager?
Yeah, just one comment and a quick question. As on the animal control visit that you have no dogs, I think that you will find that it's because the fastest way of getting communications is not our electronic, but word of mouth. And the community is getting the message that we're going to be enforcing. So rather than take it as the negative, it's a very big positive. I think people are beginning to see that we're serious about enforcing the law, which it's one of the things we're trying to do. And on that issue, just briefly on the public nuisance and delinquencies of young people, all of these references to parents contacted, do you have a minute or two to tell us what kind of feedback we're getting and how can some of us elected officials can get involved with if you get some sort of pushback? Because I'm certainly prepared to do that. So you don't have to.
The best part of what we've been doing is in the past, we have not necessarily brought the parents in, and we're not inviting them to come over and share this situation with us. We're telling them they have to come over to meet with us, and they have to see what we're charging their children with so that they can, as parents, understand that this is a real situation. Bad things can happen from kids just doing what they think is fun. And the parents have been absolutely supportive. I'm so grateful to the residents in Key Biscayne, the ones that we brought out. We've dragged them away from their dinner. We've dragged them away from the yacht club. And I would say that a few of them have come over with an attitude. And by the time we've explained the situation to them and the ramifications for their kids, I think they're extremely appreciative. However, while we're doing that, we are bringing the children into a part of the system. We're not dragging them down to youth hall. We're not giving them an arrest record, but they will have to identify with some type of action from the juvenile system, whether it's going to anger management school or whether it's going to some other type of course, so that they can realize that there are consequences for all of their actions.
That's great news. Thank you very much. We're making progress. Thank you, Chief.
Okay, I think we do have somebody who wanted to speak at public comments. I mean, we got away from it too quickly. So, Pete.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. It's going to be the phone number ending in 382. Caller, if you just dial *6 now to unmute yourself. Phone number ending in 382. Caller, please dial *6 on your telephone.
No. There we go. No.
Can you click ask to unmute?
I am. You don't have to whisper. It's literally you're whispering onto the Zoom meeting. Everybody heard that. Yeah. Can you, yeah. This is the first time you've
right, again, dial *6, please.
You were not. Seems like old times, Allison. Surprised you're not already sliding your chair all the way over here and just kicking me out of the scene.
Peter, could you please repeat that for the phone number 382, because he still has his hands up.
Yeah.
Yes. Caller with the phone number ending in 382. Please dial *6 on your telephone to unmute yourself.
All right. Well, we're going to have to move on. Let's go to the next item.
Mayor and council members, appointments to the 2040 Strategic Vision Board.
Right. So this was tough, but I think I did my job. I brought it down to 7 names. And what I'll do is, I mean, you all have to approve it, obviously. I'm recommending these 7 individuals who have all been serving thus far. And they are Matt Bramson, Luis de la Cruz, Robert DeZugalu, Mario Garcia Serra, Lucia Marin, Thomas McCormick, and George Mendia would be the 7 that I, would ask to, if I have to choose, and I do. So I would ask, Chad, do they have to, what happens now? Do they have to approve now, or do we come back at the next meeting and they approve?
It's up to you, Mayor. The charter requires that, you nominate and then
I've nominated.
And then the council will approve.
Okay.
I know in the past, council have asked that the resumes be circulated before they vote. I don't know if that's something the council wants to do, but that has been something that has come up.
Okay. These were all 7 people on the board already.
Right.
Mayor, I'm not trying to be legalistic. I want to ask you.
Sure.
Because when we left and Lucho did an extraordinarily political presentation today.
Right.
He danced around the issue. But when we last talked about it, you were going to sound informally to see which people wouldn't mind going off from his thing. Did you?
I asked everybody I asked, everybody wanted to stay on. I was not.
Right. But I mean, okay, I see.
Yeah, I wasn't forcing anybody to come off, and I had to make, a few tough choices. But I felt this was a better, a broader scope of people who've been involved for a long time, people who have different skills, bring different parts of the community. So I just thought, yes, go ahead, Councilmember Segurola.
Were any other people besides these 7 considered for the positions?
No, I stayed with just the board that was there.
Was this open to the public to see if anybody wanted to apply to be on the board?
I mean, I think we've had these discussions. I haven't received any emails from anybody asking to be appointed to the board.
Before this is finalized, I think members of the public or residents should be given the opportunity to express whether or not they have interest before a final list is put together and approved. Just
well, I've made my nominations. You certainly can vote how you want to vote, but I've made my nominations, and I think we need to move forward.
Okay, but your nominations don't include anyone that it hasn't even given anyone the opportunity to express interest in this board, correct?
We did have a very full process the first time, and right, this board was. I remember I was here.
Right, but today,
yes,
no one knew that they can send in their resume and raise their hand and say, "Hi, I would like to be on this."
That's true. That's correct. I think I took from the universe that I had was the board that was in existence. Had there been people who wanted to come off, I would have taken them off.
Right, but there has been no opportunity for anyone else to express interest and to be considered for these positions. We're simply reappointing people that were already there.
That's correct.
I have a problem with that.
Well, and again, I understand that, but they've had a year of COVID, and I feel they all deserve the opportunity to continue for the next year.
Is it correct, though, in any event, the public notifications appearing in the agendas?
Well, that's right. But there's been no official statement saying, "Hey, if you want to be on this board, apply." That's he's right on that point.
Mike, I just want to.
Councilmember Moss.
Yeah, I just want to. I mean, I get that, but I joined boards before I knew anybody on council, way before, and it was a simple. I think Frank was the mayor at one point. I didn't even know who Frank was. I just shot out an email and said, "Hey, I would love to be on this board. I think that would be great." And a couple months later, he appointed me. We didn't even know each other. I mean, I think people do have the opportunity if it's something that you're interested in.
People certainly have reached out to me about being on boards, but not on this.
I absolutely.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that we don't need to go. I don't understand why every board has pretty much gone like that, and now all of a sudden this board, now there has to be some type of formal notice and a formal, I don't know.
I completely, utterly, and absolutely disagree with that statement. There has never been any discussion on this council about, hey, we're considering putting this board back together. Does anybody else want to be on there? We have gone simply from, gee, are we going to shrink this board from 11 to 7 to I'm going to reappoint these 7?
Not reappointing anybody, sir. I'm nominating 7 people. That's what I've done.
Last meeting, we said that you're going to come back and appoint.
Right.
No,
we never said that.
No. Last meeting we did not say that, and last meeting we did also not say if anyone from the public wants to apply to be on there or be considered or send in their resume that they can do so. That has never been discussed, and we have absolutely no idea if there are other people in this village that are qualified or have the interest to be on this board.
Now,
that
Ignacio,
is the fact.
No, the fact is not. We did say the mayor did say he's bringing it back.
I absolutely said I was going to be bringing back to nominate.
Yeah,
so don't say that.
It was never opened up for anyone to express interest to be on there. Period. And it was never said that we're going to reappoint all 7.
I don't think that's gratefully, but
that's an absolute fact. And
there's no rewriting
history on this.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I share Segurala's frustration, but I'm trying to move forward together and constructively, because this is what happens when we make exceptions. See, we get caught into problems, and this is a particularly important board since it has a substantial contribution of $165,000, and this sort of flows over into my wanted to have a discussion on item 2. Since we have to really basically reappoint all the boards. It's been I've been here 2 years and I haven't. And I remembering and also reading the charter and in the reviews that we did exactly a year ago or 2 years ago of the boards, while we should not be bound, just like this resolution of civility, et cetera, just sort of common stuff, that each one of us being equally empowered by the citizens who elected us, that we would have, you know, each one an appointment, because that would be contrary to the spirit of what I believe in terms of how we should work together, including the beach issue that we had. But moving forward, I hope that you want to have as a mayor a sense of some of the input we give you, and strive as much as you can, since it has to be approved anyway. It's sort of a co-appointment to represent. That's why we came up with the number 7. Now that's for the next item. The problem is we inherited this one with 11. I just think my own, that day that was all done, unfortunately, too fast. We kept growing from 7 to 9 to 11. I made one appointment, and as you know, I had to withdraw it to accommodate another councilman's legitimate request. So I wind up without an appointment in this thing, because I subsequently, in a vacancy, submitted Bill Krause. And it is an important board. It's gonna, I'd rather we make the decision on 7, you know, I guess you're starting the process, which is fine. You have to have maybe for the next meeting, a vote. And see how you can sort of represent different points of view. I hate to be in your shoes, I know, because it's not appointing 7 new people, but actually, you know, like Lucho said earlier, you know, 11 people who've done a lot of work. And right off the top, we're cutting off 4. It's no fault of theirs. We just really did not act well that way. So I agree with Segurola. Ignacio, I know, but I'm in the mood to move forward. I don't know. Maybe it's a courtesy to him. We can advertise.
This is a.
I rather. Here's what I'm trying to say. Okay, I better speak English. This has been already fairly controversial, and I like to make it less controversial.
I don't think
if we make appointments that are going to be controversial, that committee is going to carry this burden. I don't know. I'm a little.
I don't think it's been controversial, really, to shrink it from 11 to 7, and I was in favor of that. I think we all saw the logic in it. The problem that I'm
having, I meant the names, Ignacio. I meant the names.
Well, the names. The problem that I'm having is that tonight is the first night that we're hearing all of this, and this is for a new 2-year appointment when no one else has had the opportunity to even express an interest. So I in the spirit of moving on, I'm not.
Send me the names you want. I mean,
I have no name. There's no one I want to push forward for this.
Okay.
But I think we should announce to the public we're accepting, nominations or interest or notices of interest. If you want to be on this, send us your resumes, and then we reanalyze this. This is for a 2-year appointment that we're moving forward on a board that's going to be given a lot of power. And I think we should have the opportunity of having people express interest and participate.
Okay. Let's just go back to the chart.
Can I have my turn?
Certainly. Councilman McCormick, I apologize.
It's okay. Brett, have you had many people from the public attending these meetings wishing that they could be on? I realize it's been a while since you've had some, but as the meetings are all noticed, they're public. Do people come and participate or listen?
I mean, when we were having them in the village hall, there might have been 1 or 2 people that would come. Sometimes like a Steve Simon would be there, or Judd, I remember, came into a few, but that was about it.
Okay. And presumably that can continue. I wasn't here at the last meeting. I think it's my first meeting that I've missed. Maybe I might be wrong, and maybe there was one other, and I'm sorry I wasn't, because while I understand what I'm hearing in the rationale of going from 11 to 7 to be consistent with the boards, it is really surprising to me that we have, there's so many boards where we're looking for people and constantly trying to find community involvement. And we literally have people that we're turning away right now who have committed to doing it, but I think Lucho used the word hamstrung, that they were unable to do the work that they were asked to do 2 years ago for many reasons, COVID being one of them, but another one being it took us a long time to decide to act. when they were asking for the consultants. These people have been committed, and the clock ran out, not because they didn't do their work, but because they didn't have an opportunity to. So I think, you guys decide what you want about soliciting additional people, but I think the most important thing that we need to be communicating to our residents is that all of these meetings are open to the public. And I've never been to one where I wasn't welcome, even before I was elected. And I think that the more people that are involved and that are attending, the better the outcome. So it gives me kind of a heavy heart that we're telling 4 people, thanks for your service, sorry you didn't get to do it, we just cut your board down by 4. And now we're talking about telling the remaining 7, sorry, you don't get to work either. I think we're really running the risk of doing some real damage to committed people. That's just my opinion.
Maybe there's a compromise. Mayor,
I'm sorry, Councilmember Moss and then Councilmember Loretto. You can come up. He's been waving his hand for a little while.
No, I just want to say I support your nomination. I think that, of course, we need to allow people to have the opportunity to come on boards, but in this instance, we need to move forward. This is a board that has already invested over 1.5 years onto getting this stuff moving. And it makes sense to continue with people who have already been on this board and have already been contributing because they have not finished. And this is not a board that just goes on forever. It will end. It's a project that does end. And if there's another opening that comes up, great. Then we open that up and say, anybody interested, you can fill that spot. But right now, we've all just kind of ended because of the time that got delayed by council, and we need to restart this up and keep these people going. And they've already invested an immense amount of time and work into this, immense. We were meeting once a week at some points, So I don't think it's fair right now. And I think that what you are recommending, Mayor.
Councilmember Laredo and then Councilmember Segurola.
Yeah, first of all, on your last comment, I agree with you a lot, but don't say that council delayed it. We were deliberating. It is a significant appropriation of $165,000 without precedent, and also some philosophical issues that we have legitimately. That's what democracy is about. So the so-called delay is not an excuse. That's part of our duty to do our due diligence. But that doesn't negate that they have been working, and one of my priorities is to legitimize this committee right away today, because basically it's in legal limbo. And I think we already crossed that bridge. But from now on, I'm not going to accept any of these motions of consensus. I'm going to take a vote that we need to reconstitute this committee with 7 to be in compliance with the other ones, and then talk a little bit about the names. But we cannot adjourn today with them they being in limbo. It's just actually unsustainable. I share Segurola's concern, but I'm not into, you hear me talk about we're representative democracy. I don't need to we're a small island. I don't need to put another ad and meet all the legal requirements. If you have somebody that you feel strongly about, I may have one maybe submit it to the mayor and have him consider it. But you do the search. I do the search. It's not most of the people you suggest. I don't have any problem with, but I know I just think we need to get our act together and move forward. I don't know if it's possible to delay the final decision to the 30th, which is we're going to have the meeting on the 30th, and give Segurola and whoever an opportunity to send you, Mayor, suggestions that you may accept or not. But I certainly don't think we should go, Ignacio, into advertising, because we create a lot of work for a staff, and they have to do other things as well. So I don't know if that's a compromise. Maybe I can just make the motion. Councilor,
I've already nominated respectfully. I've put my names forward. Councilmember Segurola, you can go ahead.
But are we to legitimize this committee, Councilor?
It's already a legitimate committee. I believe we've already voted. Yeah, we've moved it forward. It's a committee now. I just needed to nominate the names. Councilmember Segurola?
My problem has to do with fairness, notice, and transparency. I I don't have a problem with the 7 people that have been put forward, but I also know that no one's has been given any notice that they can throw their hat in the ring also. My proposal is very simple. Tonight, we say out to the public and we shoot out an email that the village is very good at doing, saying if you have any interest in being on this board, submit your resume. And we come back at the next meeting and see who we have who submitted their names. If no one else has, great, we appoint all 7. If somebody else has, then we take it from there and we select the best people possible to be on the committee. It's very simple.
Respectfully, it's my job under the charter to nominate the members of committees. You can vote them up, you can vote them down. I've made my nominations of 7. I've been trying to work with folks.
Mayor, can you give us the names again?
Certainly. Matt Bramson, Luis de la Cruz, Robert DeZugalu, Mario Garcia Serra.
Wait.
Okay. Matt Bramson.
Yes.
Luis de la Cruz, Robert DeZugalu, Mario Garcia Serra, Lucia Marin, Thomas McCormick, George Mendia.
Mayor, can I ask you a quick question? It seems like your criteria is that you want to choose people who have already served on this board that are familiar with what is going on. If other people express interest and send it to you, and since you're the person who is going to appoint the people,
I'm going to nominate the people. The council appoints.
Okay, so you're going to nominate them. Are you going to consider to nominate any of these people?
At this point, no. I mean, I think all the points that have been made, look, they're in the middle of a project
to do this, and a waste of energy.
These folks have been working on this for over a year.
Well,
we're moving forward.
Well, if
Mayor, we're trying to move forward.
That's another problem with the logic. To say right off the bat.
Gentlemen, one of you at a time, please. Councilmember Laredo and then Councilmember Segurola.
So I know where you're coming from. I just trying to buy the perhaps 15 days, which is the next meeting on the 30th, would make this moot. But I know your responsibility and that's your power. I like to move.
If you all would like to resubmit, I mean, if that's the will of the council, then so be it. I will come back and I will
just send you whatever names we may want and you.
Hold on. Okay.
And we decide on this on the 30th.
It is absolutely bad form to say I won't consider anyone else anyways because they haven't been on this committee before.
Councilmember Segurola, I don't need you to advise me on what is bad.
I'm not advising you. I'm telling you.
Well,
I'm not
you're mistaken then, sir.
To say that publicly is to undermine the trust of the residents of the village have. To say, gee, I won't consider anybody because they haven't already been on there. That is absolutely the incorrect way to run policy.
And that's your opinion, sir. And if you run for mayor, you'll have the right.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move.
Vice Mayor, you're recognized, and then Councilmember Laredo.
Ignacio, I understand where you're coming from, and I also understand where Mike's coming from. What Mike is really saying, these people were shortchanged, didn't have a full term because of COVID. You're saying we really should get some fresh blood, possibly.
No, I'm not saying that.
Possibly,
yeah,
that are more qualified than the ones.
Open it and just delay 30 days. Open it. Nobody else shows interest. Go forward. That's it.
But my point being is, what you're saying is, if I understand, there possibly can be more qualified people that Mike has selected that he should consider to nominate. If I understand you correctly. And Mike is basically saying, listen, these people are very well qualified. They've served, they were short-circuited by COVID. So therefore, I want to give them a break and keep them on rather than bring new people on and bring new people on next time. If that's what it is, then we're wasting our time because you're going to come back with the same 7 people and then you're going to give other people false hope, which isn't fair either.
I'm not giving anyone false hope. This is a group, a committee that's being created to do the best job possible for the village. It is a meritocracy. It is not something that, your spot is, we're going to keep it warm because COVID messed things up in the last year. That's great. That's the sentimental view. This is not a sentimental thing. This is a job on behalf of the village. And I'm not saying don't reappoint these people. I'm saying give the proper notice to the public. Let whoever wants throw their hand.
I am not appointing anyone. I'm nominating.
Okay.
I want to be clear.
Then my point is, it is improper to nominate these people without considering anyone else.
Well,
Let me just say, I had said the word nominate. Technically, the charter says appoint subject to council approval, but I mean.
Apologies, then I withdraw my objection to the word appoint. Councilmember Laredo and then Councilmember Kaplan.
I'm struggling with a compromise to accept your, or take note of your nominations and defer our decision until March 30th, and that in itself which is not a long time and may buy some cohesiveness on us. I would maybe make that into a motion. I don't know. I'll make it in a motion. So that if anyone any one of us wants to give you our input, we can do it rather than tonight. Just send you an email. Look, please consider, and then have the formal vote on your slate, whether you accept the additional names or not. It'll be up to you. That may buy some time and some cohesiveness as we move forward. I just don't want to close today with that. Was that anybody else would like?
So your suggestion is to push this until the 30th.
That don't make any difference.
We're having a special
but
meeting.
take note of his nomination.
Look, again, that's the will of the council. What does the council want to do? That's what I'm trying to say. Look, Luis, all due respect, if you want to wait until the 30th, I want to hear from the rest of the council. If council wants to wait until the 30th, my feeling is we've waited a long time with this committee, this board, and I feel like they've worked really hard, and I want to see them. The chairperson was here tonight, said that they haven't been doing things because we haven't given them what they needed to go. I want to give them what they need to go to move them forward. So that's my issue. It's 3 more weeks. I understand that's not a long time. So if that's the will of the council, I'll abide by that, and I'll come back with my appointments on the 30th.
I think it would. I think you're right, but on the other hand, perhaps it would help us if we buy another 15 days or 20 days.
Make any difference.
And give people the opportunity to throw their hand in the ring if they so desire.
Well, no. If you want somebody, you throw it in his ring.
No. I have no one I'm trying to nominate. My whole point is send notice to the village that if someone is interested, they can send in their resume and express the interest. That's it. It's very simple. I don't have an agenda. I'm not trying to get any one person on there or any one person off. I'm just saying, open it to the public, give notice, and then we'll come back in 3 weeks. It's very simple.
But it's what's the will of council? That's what I'm asking you all. Tell me, what does council want to do? Do you want to vote on these appointments now, or do you want to wait until March 30th? You guys make the call.
Are you going to come with the same people? Then we must as well do it now.
It's the same people you're going to
Let's wait until March 30th.
I think Chad said something that was on my mind, that I think this actually is the mayor's prerogative, unless there's objection. This is sort of more with the advice and consent of council than a ratification by council. I'm comfortable with your slate. I think, Ignacio, in my notion of history is that all boards, all committees are always open to everybody. I think the question you're raising is more about how aggressively should there be a formal outreach to communicate that truth, that reality. That's a fair conversation that we could have on the next item. If you want to wait, it's 3 weeks or whatever it is. I'm comfortable with your slate, and I don't have any objection. I think it's a good slate. The only thing I would have done, had I been here during the discussion earlier, is advocate to keep it at 11. I think that's better for strategic and visioning, to have, channel more broadly with more diversity. And I would have, argued that point, but I don't want to revisit that.
Yeah, that's
all right. Don't bring that back up.
Right. Let's keep.
I would make a formal motion with the spirit of not detracting from your duties to suggest and for our approval that it would be, under the circumstances, prudent and healthy and everything else, to defer for 20 days, I guess. 20 days.
Yeah, 21 days. You guys make the call.
I'm good doing that.
So is that his second?
That's the second. Yeah.
I suppose that would be a second
motion.
What are we doing?
We want to defer until the 30th.
And give people an opportunity to express interest.
people have never not had that opportunity.
I understand, but I would like to put the message out there to be clear.
So you would have that done on every committee, on every board?
Whenever nominations or however you want to call it, or appointments are coming up on any committee, it should be open to the public for people to express interest.
It always is, though. That's the point.
Well, exactly.
This has been
this time. No, this time it's just been. I'm just going to renominate the 7 people who are already there.
Reappoint. Anyway.
And it is.
I know, it's just a matter of our conversation today has to do with words and adjectives that are not healthy. I think we hear you. I think buying 21 days, I think it's a reasonable compromise.
I know. Buying 21 days without letting people know that they can send in their resume and express interest is doing nothing.
I find that quite the contrary. I reach out to people.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay.
I don't have one appointment.
Listen, stop for a second. We had enough discussion. Basically, we waited a month for Luis on the 960 Harbor as a courtesy. We can wait for Ignacio as a courtesy on this. Does that make everybody happy? And then we can move forward.
Yes, I think it's a constructive.
But if you want to reach out to people, that is our responsibility to do so. There is no other process.
Sure. They can notice can be posted on our Connect thing.
Yeah.
I'd like to have an opportunity to speak to the people who served and would have expressed their interest and desire to continue to serve. That doing this, what I'm hearing from Councilmember Segurola is that he's interested in doing this for the sake of consistency and transparency, and that we do it with other boards. Correct. And that it is in no way a reflection on the work of this committee or board and the dedication that these people have shown and their commitment to want to actually do the job they were asked to do. I can't imagine why any one of them want to come back at this point. Seriously, I mean, I know in my house, I said, please don't. It's really been a tough road for them. And I hope that we don't lose the people who have already committed because they feel like they're being mistreated in some way.
Well said.
Absolutely.
That's a motion, and as a manager, can we do a quick on those things that you put out, the notice like you did today on alligators?
Yep. That's all I asked. Send out
something, Village Connect. Let's get it done.
Exactly.
Okay, fine.
Thank you.
And
so,
Madam Clerk, if you
let's make it a motion so it's clear. And we'll defer to.
No, I'll defer it. I'll just defer my nominations. Okay. I'll make the statement that if anybody wants to put their name in the hat, they can certainly do it. They can submit through the village, either sending something to the clerk, my email. As a matter of fact, my phone number is on every website in the country. So anybody who's interested, send me your information and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
So Councilman Laredo withdraws his motion because I just want to make sure. Thank you.
I withdrew my appointments for the evening until March 30th.
Thank you.
Next item.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is review of all advisory boards, Mayor Davey and Councilmember Laredo.
Well, very shortly, I just think what I think we need to ourselves, because I believe that we are the outreach. That's why we got elected. Put our hats on about people who could contribute to these committees. All of them now are vacant or up for reappointment because it's been at least 2 years. And so submit to you in the next week or two our recommendations by each one of them, advisory committee, and then you make the recommendation so we can avoid this.
Well, let's do this. Have we had a recent list of what committees, what boards? Yes. We do. We have a list of the boards and what vacancies there are.
You just deduct, Mayor, that if we had the whole thing in March 12, 2019, it's already been 2 years. So everybody's up.
Right.
Well, but some people we have appointed along the way, right? Okay. Like I know for the Education Advisory Board, there have been people in the interim. but I'm sorry, I just cut you off. Not every single position is open on every single board. I agree with you 100%. It's absolutely time to take an inventory. If I could suggest, the way that I would suggest we do it is we each are a liaison to different boards. Maybe if we came back with an inventory of who's up, how many vacancies there are. I know I reported 2 meetings ago that the Education Advisory Board had 2 vacancies. I think an outreach went out. I don't know if you've gotten any.
Did I get one name? I think I might have gotten one name and I didn't put that appointment. Why don't we come back with a full list and everybody, why don't we have the full list not at the March 30th meeting, because I think we're doing a special. So let's
April 27th.
April 6th. Why don't we do it for the April 6th meeting?
Because we're going to have the village manager maybe by then.
Okay, by April 27th.
To the 27th of April.
Fine, let's do that. April 27th, we come back and we do very thorough work on that. Okay.
So just to be clear, each one of us is going to inventory the boards that we are the liaison for, and then have our list of vacancies. Expires.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to ask the clerk, frankly, what the status is. I'm going to cheat.
Okay. Yeah, and if and Allison, if you feel that you don't have to just on your board, you can recommend about.
Yeah, no. I don't mean just only recommend your own board. I just think it's important for us to be able to report on our own boards what the needs are.
Right. I understood what you meant, but I'm saying I'm going to cheat anyway.
Okay.
All right, April 27th then.
With the list, there's a list of who's the liaison from council for each board.
Right.
I don't have that information, so if the clerk could provide that to me.
Can you send that to everybody, Jocelyn?
Yes.
Please, thank you.
And we need to make Councilmember Kaplan a liaison to a couple of boards.
I got some ideas.
I think at present I'm with Councilmember Laredo's kind deference, serving as liaison for the art board.
Art of Public Places.
And I think that's all. So I'm ready to volunteer.
Okay.
Yeah, there may be some boards with no liaison.
Great. Let's bring it all back April 27th. Let's resolve it all. Next item,
Mr. Mayor, is beach maintenance. Councilmember McCormick.
Okay, so this is really just, I wanted to do this in a public meeting to ask all of you how you felt about, I would like for us, if you agree, to ask the manager, I've spoken to him, and Dr. Samimi, if they could put together some ideas for us of what the beach maintenance is going to look like going forward. We've had reports about the bacteria levels and the issues that we're having with the sort of intense seaweed integration that we've done. And I think we have all come to the realization that the plan we were using was not really a healthy option. But I think that before the sargassum season comes, we really need to have a plan in place and make a policy decision. And I think we're going to need actual numbers to back it up and options in order to set that policy. But I imagine we're going to have some difficult decisions to make, but they need to be made. And I would like for us to be ahead of it instead of chasing it. So if you guys are all okay, what I would like to do is ask that Dr. Samimi have a presentation prepared for us for the April 27th meeting, so we can start working on putting together our plan and our policy for the beach maintenance going forward when the seaweed season really kicks in.
It's a great idea. I will say that Dr. Samimi's been working. We've been trying to work with the county and the city of Miami on trying to get either let's call it a composting or just a drying station on Virginia Key. It's been challenging, but our commissioner has been very, her staff, and Roland can speak to this better than I can, but they're definitely trying to work with us to make this happen. So certainly, hopefully in the next month and a half, we may have some more movement that we can report back.
Great. So I just we're all good with that, asking for the 27th? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
And Dr. Samimi, is that enough time for you?
Yeah, we'll do.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Mayor, boat noise and misbehavior in residential bayfront. Councilmember Laredo.
Yes, I guess you all are pretty aware of this, and it's unbelievable. And while I'm a strict enforcer, and I think I'm more into pushing on the envelope of our powers, because obviously a moderate and approach has not worked. It's if half of what I've been told by very people whose opinion I respect and who speak calmly and not emotionally, it is a shameful situation. The police is doing all it can to bring this unruly behavior. And, my old school about 2x4 enforcement. And I'm perfectly aware of all the restrictions. So I wanted to discuss with you to pick your brains on what you suggest we do further. I know more strict enforcement and ordinance, of noise ordinance may be one. The other one is, I don't want to say the wrong word, the general counsel is online here. Not that we would ever harass or in any way make their situation pleasant, but anything that accomplishes that end, and also then to really make this a priority for Tallahassee. We're paying a lobbyist in Tallahassee. I know there's some state jurisdictional issues that they could help us. It's just sort of they should be brought into this fight. And the mess. What I like to get from, I guess I'm sure all of you share the president's frustration, is to be a little bit more aggressive in protecting their property, and they can't enjoy their Saturdays and Sundays. It's ridiculous.
I agree. I think it's something we have to resolve. Vice Mayor and then Councilmember McCormick.
I brought this up, I guess, 2 meetings ago, and we talked about it, and Chuck was going to talk to the, I guess, Dade County, possibly doing their local agreement, since they don't have the manpower or the desire to police the noise coming off the bay, that possibly we would have the authority to do that. Subsequently to that, I talked to Chuck this past weekend, and he talked about basically bringing to us within the next 2 weeks that he's working with Chad right now, a new ordinance, a nuisance ordinance, similar to what they have, I guess, Chuck, you said in the county. Yes. Should give us the authority to basically control this, which we don't have now. Right now, we have a noise ordinance which talks about 65 decibels at 100 feet, and it does include boats, etc. But it's very difficult to police it if they're out there and we're on land and they're not even in our territory. So I think we're going to wait for Chuck and Chad to come back with this new ordinance, which will also not be just noise, but it'll be also nuisance. Do you want to comment on that, Chuck?
Yeah, we're actually moving in 3 different directions right now. I reached out today to the assistant director of Miami-Dade Police Department in regard to an ILA similar to the agreement that we have on the Causeway. He supports it 100%. So we are working with Chad to draw up that ILA as quickly as possible. And we should get some movement on that from the county very quickly. The second thing we need to discuss is the opportunity, as you said, to bring back an ordinance to the council that would give us an advantage by not just defining the noise, but actually creating a nuisance ordinance. I can explain to you that if we're sitting on one of the 4 pools of our residents and we had a decimal meter and there's 300, 400 boats out there, it would be impossible to identify which boat is creating that noise. In fact, what it becomes is what I call white noise. It's just one massive amount of sound. But there are some goings on with some of the boats that can be identified as almost like Sodom and Gomorrah. So we have added an extra boat on weekends on overtime, unfortunately, because due to our shift in resources, when we had to put our 2 SROs out there, we cut our Marine Patrol in half. And so we simply haven't had the resource out there to deal with them. Working with the state this week, we are going to be doing with them a BUI task force in the next week or 2, which I think will have a dramatic effect on at least getting to the heart of the problem, number one. And the county has promised me that they will deliver some resources to us as we're fearing a greater influx of boaters because they're getting ready to, if they haven't already started, dredge Haulover. Once they dredge that, which was a major flats area also, and they had incredible issues up there, those people will have nowhere to go because of the dredging. And our fear is that they'll come south. So that discussion has been met with a very positive attitude from the county. And I would like to be able to bring this back either at the April 6th or the April 30th meeting where we could bring you back ordinance changes. We could give you a report on our BUI task force that we did. Everybody is in full support of what you're looking for, including me.
Great.
Well, I think it's...
Oh, Councilmember
McCormick. The word should go out that, we talked about this 2 years ago, and it sort of drops off because we have other priorities. But this is a top priority, and I don't know. I learned from a very successful businessman a long time ago that he always made decisions and then turned to his lawyer and said, "This is what I want to do. You make sure I can do it legally." So instead of taking the attitude, the lawyers will tell you, "You can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do that." Then we just sit around and I'd like to push on the envelope. And the word will get out if we start. For example, I don't see any reason why you shouldn't go to individual votes, even though the noise gets, mixed, you don't know from which vote, but into inquiry and to get close. And that message gets around, hey, they're coming up. And there's also indecent exposure. I don't know what the laws are, lewd and indecent exposure that is going on. We have a whole bunch of things that we can start, it starts with a ticky, 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 ticky. And in fact, eventually they'll go somewhere else. It meets the law of less resistance. I urge you to help in what you're doing, Chief, but put a little more spice in the approaches to the vote so that they can sense that we have a new sheriff in town. And we're not going to tolerate this.
Well,
Councilmember McCormick?
Hire a new sheriff, but we are adding a second vote. And that's important to say here, folks. And I don't mean to interrupt, but we have only had one vote out there. And the county has very limited resources because they're spread throughout the county. So we will be hitting them as hard as is legally possible with the help from our friends from Miami-Dade, the state, and hopefully some other neighboring agencies.
Great.
Chief, I'm really happy to hear that you're going to be getting some additional support, because I know when we first talked about this a while back, when the residents first reached out to, I think, all 7 of us, you had concerns about limited resources for everyone, including neighboring jurisdictions, because of the constraints of COVID. Do you feel like that's gotten a little bit easier, or like the sort of COVID restrictions have eased a bit and that there's more available resources, or are you really like pulling in a lot of favors to get the support? And the reason I ask is because I suspect, as we're seeing with, our crackdown, as we did with traffic stops a couple of years ago, and now with our underage driving in the golf carts and so forth, it's going to take more than one big weekend of crackdown to make people uncomfortable enough to not want to come back. And I have real concerns with what you shared about Haulover, that the problem has already gotten way too big, that we can't sustain it getting any bigger. So I'm asking, I guess, what your thoughts are on the forecast of resources. Do you think it would be possible to do more than, one big crackdown weekend and enough? And what would you need to make that happen?
Well, the blessing of having great relationships is I pick up a phone, I talk to the director. He not only gives us the support for an ILA, but he said absolutely happy and willing to share their resources with us so we could get this problem under control. Because at the end of the day, these partiers drive through county waters, or they're sitting in county waters, and they're BUI and they're on their way home, and God forbid we start losing people again. We are resource starving right now, but a little bit of overtime and putting the folks out there, getting a little help from our friends, and we will attack this problem with the same vigor that we've done in the past. Sustainability is a question mark, but I could tell you that we're full speed ahead, and Chief Capone has been working with his staff to ensure that this weekend, for instance, we were out there, had all our resources out there, and then God decided to give us a lousy boating weekend. So in essence, there were very few boats on the water this past weekend. But that won't be the case going into April, May, when the summer months really hit us hard.
And my offer still stands. You can deputize me at any time, and I will be happy to go out there.
No, that probably goes farther than even Councilmember Laredo wants us to go.
Mayor, you don't forget to send those letters out.
Yeah, no, we're drafting them. We should have them out tomorrow or Thursday. Okay, next item.
I'm sorry, I lost my video. I can't restart it. The next item is the
no, we have one more item.
Search process, Councilmember Moss.
For a couple of reasons, I have a couple items on here. So one of them is that we have 3 companies that we hired to go ahead and do reports for us. To discuss this with you guys, my idea of this is that when these reports are ready, I think we should receive them at that point. I don't think we need to wait for another report to be ready for the other report, because this is going to be a lot of information that's going to be coming on our plate. And I want to see if everybody's in agreement, we should direct the manager or Juan or whoever's working on this, that whenever a report's ready, please give it to us so we have time to start digesting one of the reports before another one comes in. If not, I feel like it's going to be just too much for us to handle. So that would help expedite it. And I'm not sure.
I agree.
That. Okay. And then the other thing is that we have a March 30th special meeting that's coming up, really just to make a selection on the financing, I guess, for the and I think that we could take this opportunity to use that meeting to together as one entity to be able to ask questions to any of our consultants that we've had. And I think that's an opportunity that maybe we shouldn't miss, because if we all do this by ourselves, there are questions that each of us are going to ask that we may not have thought of. And maybe by doing it together, we would learn a little bit more about the things that are coming in. And I think one thing is important to keep in mind is that Connie will not be available after April 1st. And this could give us a great opportunity to listen to what some feedback, some questions that each of us have together. I think it also brings up transparency so that people in the public could also listen in and kind of understand the information that we're getting, so they could understand what our final vote would be at. So, I would make the motion that maybe we can.
I second it.
Well, hold on. Can we do them in different? I have different views on this.
Sure, that's fine. That's fine.
I think
so
the reports.
I'll make a motion on the first one about releasing the documents as soon as.
I think it just is a consensus of council, right? We can all. Do we have a consensus? Let's direct the council. Okay. And on the second one, I believe, and I understand what you're saying about questions. I think I would like to get you all to actually reach out to our consultants, as much as we don't like to use that word, and talk to them one-on-one about what they've provided to us so that we can get that background, because I don't know, I really don't see the information they're going to be giving us is going to be the information they're giving us. I guess I see more of a value with us working one-on-one with each of them to really bore down on this, because I don't think in a public setting we're really going to get through this. I think it's just going to be a lot of talking, and I don't see it as a really valuable piece of time. I see their information and their abilities, their skill sets are valuable, and I certainly am going to reach out and work with them on a one-on-one basis. I just don't see a meeting of all of us with them, unless it was for them to just present. I don't see anything beyond the reports as beneficial in terms of a meeting in the public on that. But that's me.
I agree.
Mr. Manager, you want to speak?
Yes, really quick. The tape product is complete, and we'll get that out to you ASAP. I have a meeting along with our HR director, Ken Journey and Associates, on Monday. with his final product. And the last one we'll be getting is Connie Hoffman and her team. So we will do as asked. Perfect. And send out everything as quickly as possible so you can start digesting it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councilmember Kaplan and then Councilmember McCormick.
I intend, once I get the materials, to try to speak to the consultants privately. I think that that's just a different conversation potentially than can possibly happen in public. And I would like to have those conversations in my own way. I think it's a fine idea to have a public presentation on the 30th or whenever we can get everybody assembled, in part to, explain to the public what they did to help us become informed, to help us with these decisions, and to answer questions. But the nature of the questions that I anticipate, I think are going to be questions that I have offline.
Well, Frank just said exactly what I was going to say, but I see a value in both for all the reasons Frank said. And then one additional, I do think that this is, and having just very recently gone through this process, it is a very difficult process to get to a good result with 7 people all operating in sort of 7 different vacuums. And it's not comfortable to have a lot of conversations in public, and we certainly can't have them in private. But I think to the extent that people are comfortable, it would be nice to have a little bit of insight into where other people are going or what they're thinking in terms of who they're looking, what traits they're looking for, or what, it's possible someone will have a question that I didn't think of. And so I see a real value in having a public meeting, and certainly in each of us having as many conversations with the consultants and the candidates as we need to get to our decision. So I would support both.
Councilmember Segurola?
I'm for a public meeting, and I'm for getting the information as quickly as possible as it comes in.
Mr. Mayor, I would too, because it has the value.
That's fine. We have consensus. I think we'll have.
It has the value of transparency, and it has the value also with something that worries me is that citizens that approach me is, what are you guys doing? You're procrastinating. Sure. And so by even having the meeting, they see that we're working on it.
Okay. Well, then we have consensus for the March 30th meeting. That'll be after the fire truck and the appointment of the strategic vision board.
We wait much longer. Most of the candidates have other jobs, so we don't.
Yes, we got to be careful.
Start all over.
All right. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
See ya.